All right, everybody, welcome. And this is the special Wednesday show with Tanaath and Sunfire and Drake. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Welcome. Glad to have you with us. Today's June the 26th. And we've got lots of ground to cover and lots of carryover questions that have been coming in, not only to your show, Drake, but to the email. So, but I'm going to let you let us know anything that we need to know that's going on first before we get to the questions.
Okay. Well, there is a lot going on. The in-depth and complexity of what is being attended to is rather extraordinary, just to be making understatements. The situation is this. We have an ambassador, and we have a commander. And then you got me. I'm not sure exactly how I fit into that, but irrespective, this is the real thing. The decision to try to do this show was made among several people for two reasons. You're hearing a lot of things, and I keep running across this, where the old paradigm, however you wish to pronounce that, of great earth changes is right about upon us. Ooh-wee. Well, guess what? The changes that have been made and are being made are subjugating that situation. When the concentration of energies in terms of planetary or otherwise are dispersed, not necessarily done away with, but spread out a little bit, you end up with a 2.0 instead of a 12.8 earthquakes. You don't have things like the movie A Volcano, where in the middle of L.A. you sprout a volcano or any of that stuff. You do not have the end-time scenarios that 2012 showed, although they did some awesome graphics. The other part of it is very simple. And I've stipulated this before, and I'll say it again, and this is basically going to be the end of it. Real simple. ET is here to assist us, help us, make sure that we are able to, as best we can, and individuals will vary, to accept the idea that we are not alone. X-Files and a bunch of other shows stipulated a lot of that. There was a whole lot of fun and games on X-Files, a lot of it truth, some of it not. A whole lot of stuff's made up. You'll see things like the bad ETs from Battleship. Ooh, well, first of all, ET has a lot better machinery than that, for one thing. Number two, that's old. Believe it or not, it was done back in the late 60s, early 70s, in terms of the ideology and information. The Great Earth Changes information has come from about the period of the late 50s and earlier. There have been several seers who saw things of this nature, and yes, that was to be our fate. That was to be our future, if you can call that a future. So, where we're sitting now is totally different. It's a different deal. People have probably noticed a difference in the atmosphere, a difference in the feel of things when you go outside. The sunlight doesn't feel like it's trying to eat you up as it used to, among other things. And these changes are primarily due to a combination of the approach of the transition. In other words, things are getting ready to make changes, and the fact that the groups that I am active in have been dealing directly with the problematics, all of them. This is one of the reasons for my show, to bring to light things that people need to understand so that we can get to where we need to go on a strictly Earth basis. Second part is that the show we've got tonight goes to the part that people are kind of iffy about. Well, go ahead and be iffy. All I want you to do, and it's the only thing I'm asking, listen up. Listen to the questions. Listen to the answers. And think. Really honestly think. Are there anything outside of the norm that you're beginning to see more of? Look for it a little bit. You might be surprised what you find. That is part of us being prepared, getting ready to make the transition. Those who wish to stay, welcome to the party. This is going to be a roller coaster ride, and few of us will ever forget. Second part of it is, those who don't want to go, there have been accommodations arranged and are ready to go. In terms of earthbound, you've got a whole bunch of things that have been happening lately. People see things moving out, and they don't come back. Oh, boy, what's that mean? Foreign troops, ooh-wee. Well, I put an email out today. It's on the website. It deals with that. Not a whole lot to worry about, believe me. The military here, along with the militias, intel groups, etc., are pretty much ready to go. There's not a whole lot. I mean, in some cases there's a lot, but overall, generally, there's not a whole lot left to do. Now we wait. And the secondary part is, in terms of before there is any kind of official introductions, ET wants things made known and clarified that they're here to help. As a matter of fact, we're related, which, you know, sometimes relations shouldn't be allowed in the house, but they get in anyway. Irrespective, I found nothing but absolute honesty, absolute good intention, and one really ate-up sense of humor on the part of the ETs. We fit together very well. So the gist of it is this. I had decided a long time ago, I've heard people talk about this and that. Oh, I met E.T. You're hearing secondhand stuff, and this happens all over the place. You're hearing, ooh, we channeled. Yeah, really? Okay. What kind of funky monkey took over your body and said what it wanted to? Not cool, but it happens. So we need to get to the real crux of it. That's what the ladies are all about, and that's what they're here for. And I think we ought to get on with the show.
All right, Tanaath or Sunfire, did you have anything else you wanted? Did you have anything you wanted to share first?
Well, I just want to say that I know a lot of people have been looking for real, actual proof that the positive ETs are getting involved in doing things. Well, there was a freighter cargo ship that got split off the, I believe it was Kenya or something like that, and was carrying weapons to Syrian rebels. Well, the positive ETs decided to say, no, you don't. That was them.
Uh-huh.
I've got a request for a shout-out by Irina, who requests that I do a shout-out to all spiritual human entities that are left behind, a.k.a. I'm guessing the ghosts. So, hello, you guys. Thanks for sticking it out. Don't do any harm, and we're good.
Good deal. Okay. Well, we've got like 14 pages of questions. I guess we should get started, huh?
Yep. I got my diving suit on. I'm ready to jump
really. I'm going to need to start putting them in smaller fonts, so maybe we won't have so many pages. Okay. All right. Too bad it wouldn't help, huh, to make it in smaller print. All right. Are there any tank commanders in your military forces? I can imagine that having some form of armor fire support would be useful against rapid-fire weapons.
Tank commanders. Is that a Silver Legion question, or is that a Drake question? Because we don't use a lot of tanks anymore.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I really don't know who that question is directed at. It's just a general question.
Yeah, our armored division usually consists of people in plate mail.
Okay.
And I choose not to discuss the armor used by the Federation. It's tactical information I will not reveal.
Okay. I have a question that I would like to submit for all of you. Okay. I would be keen to hear what you guys think of the matter of how do you actually tell when you have met someone that you are supposed to be with, like your soulmate, your whatever.
Well, I usually get what they call a synchronicity bored to the face, or well, that's what I call it. It's to me, it's somebody who's accustomed to identifying synchronistic events in my life. It becomes pretty obvious. That said, I think you got to be cautious not to jump too quickly to the conclusion that you've met a soulmate or something like that. I used to know a guy who decided that everybody he ever dated, while he was dating them anyway, was his soulmate, and he was absolutely convinced, and then absolutely nothing would change his mind until he broke up with them, and then, of course, they weren't his soulmate anymore, and he must have been mistaken, at which point I think the whole notion gets diluted quite a bit and is not relevant. I would tell people to focus less on finding your soulmate. You will find your soulmate when you're meant to.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Tanaath, and I think the whole concept of soulmate is been so diluted that it's lost its true meaning. I mean, for me, it was like there's people that I meet and I connect with that I have a very deep connection with, and it's almost like you almost just know instinctively, and that's the only way I can tell. The only way I can really say is that there's just like an instinctive way of telling. But I don't think I don't really prefer to use the term soulmate for anything.
Gotcha. You want to comment on that, Drake, or move on?
Well, I've met my soulmate. The thing about interaction is very simple. When you can fully and completely, without reservation, relax, give of yourself, be yourself, and find extreme joy in it, let alone synchronicity and other little minor things that pop up, I'd say you pretty much got it. Now, the gist of it is this. In some ways, it may be a temporary deal because your lifestyles may differ. But if, and this is the if, the decision is made that you accept that, and the acceptance is 100% mutual, then you'll find that the peace that you've always been looking for by being in close association with another being is there. And there's gobs of it. And no worries. It doesn't matter how anxietal your life is where you've got, things blowing up or burning down or whatever. It doesn't seem to phase you that much. So, that's the way, I'm accustomed to looking at it. And it's an automatic trust. It is something where you can trust each other with your lives and not have any concerns. It's just it's not really, to be honest, fully definable, but that's I think pretty good. Okay.
Yep. I'll just add that I too have found my soulmate. He just happened to transcend before me, and we'll hook up again. So, okay. Let's see. Also, I would be interested in hearing your thoughts on the idea that negative entities can and do attempt to thwart and destroy unions that were always destined to be, even those that were pre-agreed upon before incarnation.
I think. Go ahead.
Somebody's
okay.
typing.
I was gonna say, I think that definitely happens, and I think not only in that kind of soulmate twin flame relationship kind of thing, but even in, teams, groups, of friends, that kind of thing. It's not uncommon.
Okay.
You accomplish more when you're working with people that you're supposed to. And if you're one of these people who is supposed to be accomplishing a lot, well, then there'll be efforts into sorting that. And one of the ways in which that is sorted is by breaking up the group dynamic.
Okay. Next question. Could all of the heavy rain in Alberta, Canada, and other areas of Canada, was it created by the cabal using HAARP, or is it just Mother Nature and related to earth changes, as Tolek mentioned in his latest interviews?
It's a little bit of both. There are genuine earth changes going on. Now, I have been directly affected by this. We had relatives evacuated. I live in that province. We had relatives evacuated, and they came and they stayed with me for a few days. They're fine now, but definitely it is not natural for a storm system to be caught circulating in the same place for so long. There are some, let's just say, interesting economic things that are affected by this. One of the neighborhoods which was recovered or totally flooded, Burlton in Calgary, it has been under basically an attempt to hostile buyout of the property there. It has been completely destroyed, and it's unlikely that the neighborhood will be resettleable, which now clears the way for that land to be bought cheaply. So, I mean, there is somebody who's benefiting from this a great deal. I would say follow the money. So while some of this might be influenced by nature, there are some very clear benefits for certain groups and individuals that have me very, very suspicious. Not to mention, all these people who are sneering and pointing to it as sort of a karma. A lot of these neighborhoods that were affected were not wealthy. They were not populated by people who are working in the oil and gas industry, who could afford to live in nicer areas. In the cases of places like High River, the town of High River, the First Nation reserves that were affected, they're highly impoverished, and these people need help. They're not going to be able to recover without help because they just don't have the access to the same sort of things that some other Canadians have access to. It's a very serious situation that's happening over here. And it's not just happening in Alberta. There's floods going on. There were floods earlier this year in Europe. There's floods going on in India. In the meantime, there's drought in parts of the U.S. There's some serious stuff going on here, and not all of it is just Mother Nature and earth changes.
Okay. All right. Next question. First, I would like to hug all of you and thank you for. I hope that I will be able to, in the near future, to offer my skills and dedication to the above organizations and to bring my contribution to the liberation of other worlds from the reptilian and other galactic bullies' terror. Question for Tanaath and Sunfire. Are we going to need to eat and drink after the transformation from 3D to 4D? I'm hearing a lot of talk about the replicators during these shows, and in the past it has been stated that we won't need nourishment, only if we like to eat after the transformation. Why would we use replicators for food if we really don't need to eat?
If you are a healthy adult who does not expend more energy than you generate, for instance, if you're not running around using your higher dimensional powers a lot, you will not need to eat and drink. Children still need to eat and drink. People who have been injured need to eat and drink. And people who expend a lot of energy need to eat and drink. Most of us eat and drink because we enjoy it. And the way the replicators work is they're not taking anything from anything in terms of, taking resources from one that should have gone to another, etc. It's not stealing, so to speak. So there's nothing wrong with eating and drinking for the enjoyment of it. weight gain and that kind of thing does not exist. It is a consequence of genetic modification down here on Earth to create that particular flaw. So it's not something where people have to watch what they eat or count their calories or anything like that. So there's really no reason not to eat. It's there. It's enjoyable. It's a wonderful social activity to do with friends and loved ones. So people eat.
Okay. Question number 2. During one of the latest interviews, I think it was on Truth Frequency Radio, Tolek stated that the planetary changes will be at a scale that the governments won't be able to deal with. This statement is in contradiction with his previous year's statements when he said that he should not worry since the changes won't be at a catastrophic level, as he has recently implied. Do you think that Tolek was killed and replaced with a clone who is spreading fear-mongering? And by the way, he's not replying to the questions that are sent through YouTube anymore. What is the Galactic Federation's opinion on this? Are we going to deal with catastrophic level changes or not before our transformation to 4D?
I don't think there's any requirement for catastrophe.
Yeah. According to our precogs and projections, there is no upcoming any kind of catastrophes, mass casualty events, big destructive earth changes or anything like that, and we're currently of the opinion that those will not happen. As far as Tolek, no, he has not been replaced by a clone. He's probably just busy. He has a life outside of the Andromeda Council, so.
And he is a very busy guy.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see. Next question. I was at the bottom of the page copying questions to the bottom of the page, and then I had to scroll back 14 pages to get back to where. Okay. All right. First things first. You are all awesome, and I absolutely love your show. I stumbled upon it a couple of weeks back, probably because it's in alignment. It's in alignment with me, and I have been tuned in ever since. My question is, I'm from the Orion constellation, specifically Mintaka, and I lived on a water world called Artuvia. I was wondering if there is anything that you could tell me about this planet. I know it is no longer inhabitable at one point. It was no longer inhabitable at one point, but I don't know much other than that. Also, you guys talk a lot about reptilians from Orion.
Orion's a constellation. A constellation means that there's a lot of different stars in there. Some of them which actually are not proximate to each other. They just look like they're close together to us. But Sunfire might know something about Mintaka.
I really do not know a lot about Mintaka. I know more probably about the reptoids from the Orion constellation and the Grays from the Orion constellation. But I do know that Mintaka, that whole star system, is inhabited by positives. That's, about the best I can offer at this point.
This one said specifically a water world called Artuvia.
What I was going to suggest is to just meditate and think about Mintaka and your home planet and just have a notebook next to you and start making notes or make notes on your computer on what comes to you, because that's probably going to be your most genuine resource of information on your planet and that star system than asking any outside source.
Okay. They continue a little bit more. I know that I'm now a part of the hybridization program that was going on, and my final question is, I know a lot of people have implants through the hybridization program. I know I have gray DNA, and I have a couple of implants by my ear and throat. Could you tell me more about the purpose of these implants, if you can disclose this information? If you could answer this, it would be totally amazing. You're the best.
The purpose of the implants had to do with various aspects of control and tracking of movement. mostly figuring out where you were at a given time so that if they had to go in and mess with you again, they could. Some people's implants help boost certain abilities, but most of those have received those implants not as part of the gray hybridization program, but as part of various black ops. Now the problem with those is that they don't give you something that you don't have already. So it's kind of a lie, and pretends to offer you something new, but in actuality does not.
Okay. The Federation and Andromeda Council actually do not permit the use of implants. We consider them illegal.
Okay.
Part of the reason why we don't like the Greys.
Okay. Regarding religiosity questions, are you guys up for those, or?
To an extent, I'm going to give the caveat now that the things we say aren't going to fit in with official doctrine of most churches, if not all churches.
Okay. Some of these questions are pretty complex. Okay. Who is the real name of Jesus Christ? And if he is not from Earth, what planet did he come from? And what was his purpose of coming?
I do not know his real name. I cannot reveal which planet he comes from because I don't know as far as his purpose. I believe this was covered either in the past episode last week or 2 weeks prior. We spoke of the purpose of the whole concept and all that was connected. It's already been answered.
Okay. All right. And then they wanted to know what part of the New Testament is twisted, or is all of it twisted?
A lot of it is. It's hard to say specifically what part. I guess your own internal truth test can be to review the information. Does it come from a paradigm of love, grace, and acceptance, or does it come from a paradigm of fear and control? That which comes from a paradigm of fear and control is part of the control structure. In other words, not put there by any benevolent being.
Okay. Next question. I would like to know how carbon is not a crystalline structure. Are we coal that's transforming into jet, or jet that's about ready to become a diamond?
Closer to jet becoming a diamond.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. After listening to your last show, for the 3rd time, may I add, you mentioned that there would be rolling announcements about the Ascension transition, etc., presumably later this year. You further mentioned public libraries, YouTube presentations, etc. Now you have a network of nodal points set up for which this information will be disseminated. Have you a network of volunteers and workers and such who are all set to get the information out? And how about the government?
This is something that is better fielded to Tolek of the Andromeda Council, because it's largely the Andromeda Council outreach that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So we know of it and support it, but we are not directly involved with producing it.
Gotcha. Drake, did you want to comment on that at all? I mean, I don't know if that's strictly, ET related, or if that would be, part of it too.
Well, my understanding is simple. We've got educational videos in the box on a whole bunch of things. ET and several of the other things are included. So, but they are not extremely detailed. I In other words, that's not our area, therefore we're not going to disrespect it by saying whatever comes to mind, like some people on some of these websites do. So consequently, what we're looking at simply is to keep it as clean as possible. The only way to do that is to allow ET to take care of that problem. Okay?
Okay. Presumably they will do everything to prevent this information from getting out right up to the actual day of transition, correct? Unless you have them
not if they're cast down before that.
Oh, okay.
If we can manage to kick them out before that, which is the goal, then that won't be a problem.
Okay.
What's the second part of the question?
Well, it was like, unless you have them infiltrated at a high enough level, accepting some things must be kept hidden for now, I understand. What can you tell us as far as telling the masses goes about the transition and the two options of staying or leaving the planet?
I would give people the advice to seek their own information, to be self-directed. Obviously I consider this show to be a good source of information. We can't force this down anybody's mouth. That's a lot of work and not very much fun and not very effective anyway. Getting your friends and family curious enough that they go out and explore the material on their own is always helpful. And I would say that's a better approach than saying listen to Drake's show directly, because it's much, much more effective if they come to it of their own conclusion than if they're dragged kicking and screaming.
Okay. And the last question from this person is, finally, what factors will there be that make it imperative for half of the world populace deciding to leave? Will it be the increasing vibrations?
That, and a lot of people just maybe don't want to give up the kind of life that 3D brings. I think subconsciously a lot of the people who are deciding to remain asleep to the last moment may fall into that category because, well, while they might not like necessarily the giant poop pile that's been created out of this poor planet per se, they may enjoy the 3D life and want to continue it. And turning a subconscious blind eye to the truth and what's upcoming is one way to ensure that. They'll go with what they know rather than this big unknown of sticking around and going through fourth dimension.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I apologize to our listeners. Wasn't trying to disregard the questions about Jesus and the Bible. They were just rather complex, like explaining the whole Testament and what parts of it are, I just thought they
as with everything, follow. It's like anything else. Follow the money, or in this case, follow who benefits in terms of social or political power. Especially when you're looking at historic stuff, look at who that information benefited. Does it benefit the common man? Jesus wanted to benefit the common man. He didn't want to benefit the elite. He wasn't in it to save those in power. He was in it to help those who were downtrodden. I mean, this is very firmly established in all versions of Christianity. Jesus helped the ones who the rest of society pooped all over. The prostitutes, the thieves, the murderers, the sinners, the poor. He threw out the money lenders and the money changers. He did not give them power. So look at who's benefited from some of those things that are stated. If it's, the common guy, that's probably a good bet that that's actual good information. But if it's benefiting somebody other than the common guy, or if it's just picking out one group in society to poop all over, then it's not coming from Jesus. It's not coming from anything divine.
Okay. All right. I would like to know, how will pets have more freedom to enjoy life than they do now? I have 2 dogs, and I live in an apartment. There are many, many restrictions about where dogs can and cannot go, how much they can or cannot weigh, If they're in a public park, they must be on a leash. Will any of this change? And also, does it seem like the IRS will be dissolved in 2013 or 14?
I can't say anything about when the IRS is going to dissolve, but it's basically a Federal Reserve funding utility. It has nothing to do with collecting taxes for infrastructure or public works. So I imagine that it'll go whenever the Fed goes. As for your pets, yeah, they'll likely have a lot more freedom because they'll be recognized as sentient, mostly aware beings that are able to do things like, control when they get pregnant and where they give birth and all that. And, the need for poop is not there anymore, so you'll be able to let your dog run and not have to worry about scooping anymore.
Plus, they'll be recognized more on an equal level with humans as they are in the higher dimensions. So there, will be a lot of different things changing in regards to that.
Okay. Okay. Oh boy, some of these questions are really complex. I mean, they want, real descriptive, answers. They just seem to me, but I'm going to ask them. Okay. Tanaath, would you please, I'm getting a roar, like I'm getting a feedback. Are you hearing that, Drake?
No.
Right up until I turned my mute button off.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm just, it's like
sounds like somebody needs to go make sure the toilet quits running.
Yeah, when Toth and Sunfire, when they stop speaking, I get this, like, it sounds almost like they're in a wind tunnel or something. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Would you please give a list and description of symptoms that we will experience, both physically and mentally, as we shift into 4D, so as to be a little bit more prepared? Drake, you mentioned waking only to find out that our pet might well be telepathic. I'm observing changes within myself already. Material attachments of any type no longer seem to be there. I could give a care less if I walked out of here with nothing but the clothes on my back. I eat lighter food and I drink plenty of water because that is what's comfortable for this body. Anyway, can you please give a list and description of all the symptoms we're going to experience physically and mentally?
Tolek discusses this at length in his materials, particularly the early shows that he did, all of which are available on his site via links. I think that's probably your best place. Also, I would like to call attention to this notion of symptoms. You're talking as though ascension is a disease. Try to avoid thinking of it in terms of a disease. That's not necessarily the most positive way to think of it.
I was going to say, there's probably different people at different levels of the changes and stuff are going to experience different things, so it's extremely difficult to give a definitive list that every single person is going to experience all of this in this specific pattern.
I do know that.
To the individual.
Yeah, I do know that some of the common things are changes in dietary patterns, changes in sleep patterns, changes in attitude towards material goods as reported. I've gone through phases where all I'm interested in eating is very fatty meat and dairy and lots of vegetables. And days where I eat probably a fraction of what they're telling me, followed by like days where I'm eating a lot more than I normally do. It's very cyclic, and it's not very predictable for me anyway. I just sort of take it by ear and don't panic over it.
Okay.
The sleep thing
All right.
is a big one. Some people will find themselves sleeping a lot more than they used to, while others will find themselves sleeping a lot less than they used to, while others will go through cycles where they sleep a lot more, followed by sleep a lot less, and vice versa.
Right. chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. Everybody might react a little differently. Okay. Can you recommend a way of gaining my abilities, like the abilities that you guys have? Drake has mentioned remote viewing. I've practiced and practiced and practiced, and I only get minor flashes of things that weren't really anything. Also, I know I shouldn't have, but I tried some salvia a few years back, salvia divorium or whatever, a few years back. And the experience was what I would imagine bilocation to be like. Does it make me bilocate, or was I just hallucinating? The herb was used as a spiritual tool by an old people of America, pre-whites the last time I tried it. I couldn't remember a thing except that I had a feeling that I had done something horribly wrong, and I shouldn't be doing that again.
Salvia divinorum is an entheogen. It is like iboga and ayahuasca and peyote. It is best used for ceremonial purposes. If you try to use it for recreational purposes, you're not likely to end up with any results worth writing home about. I can't say, some people who do it get told not to do it again, which might be the case for this particular writer. What was the other part of the question besides salvia? Utilizing abilities, right?
Or gaining abilities.
Not everybody has the same. Yeah, not everybody has the same abilities. A lot of people fixate on remote viewing. Everyone can learn remote viewing to some extent, but some are going to have a lot more talent in it than others. I'm not a very good remote viewer. I'm an excellent remote knower, which is slightly different, but I have all the visual faculty of a paper bag. So I don't generally remote view, I remote know. As for finding out, what you're good at, that's something that's best left to your explanation. Somebody else isn't going to be able to tell you that or know that. What do you feel drawn to? What do you feel that interests you? Go by that.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to recommend a book that helped me. I've found it's helped several other people. I don't know if it will help anybody else, but it might. I highly recommend it. It's called Heaven and Earth, Making the Psychic Connection by psychic medium James Von Krog. He's, it's probably I think it's a really good book, and that, hopefully it'll help. I know it helped me here initially, but the best help I got was from my brother up in the higher dimensions, and prior to that, needless to say, my pony. She actually was the first one to start teaching me telepathic imagery and communication.
Yeah, I got help from my relatives. My brother, my dragon brother, who has been with me all my life, and who I really started communicating with telepathically when I was 16. I never lost contact with him, and when it comes to things like that, the more you do it, the better you get at it. Yeah, it's like knitting or anything like that, right?
Yeah, I keep telling people that psionic abilities are like muscles. The more you use them, the stronger they get. And, that's even been my experience. And for all the mentoring and guiding you're going to get, the true work and the true accomplishments are going to come from within.
And when you're beginning, be less focused on proving whether it's real and more focused on trusting yourself. Because if the more you believe in it, the easier it gets to do. Your own confidence in the ability is a big determining factor, which is partly why they've never been able to prove it using the conventional scientific method, because it is so subject to psychological influence and people's own state of mind at a given time that it becomes very difficult to repeat reliably, because we're human beings, not machines. Human beings with, psychological, what's the word I'm looking for? We often have bad days. Sometimes we didn't wake up in the right frame of mind, until you become very, very good at it and very able to trust yourself no matter what. And having an off does not mean the whole thing doesn't work. That's another thing. People are too quick to dismiss it because they have one mistake. Well, think of it this way. If you're hard of hearing like I am and you mishear something, that does not mean that you are completely deaf and that the faculty of hearing does not exist. That just means you misheard something. It happens with psionics too.
Oh yeah. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate what Tanaath was saying, because I found in my personal experience that the less I've stopped going, is this really real? Is this really happening? The less I stopped questioning that and just kind of like threw caution to the wind and just made up my mind that, yeah, it's real, it's really happening. And I found in my personal experience that it became a lot easier, the abilities became a lot stronger, and I made a lot more faster progress at that point once I stopped questioning it.
Yeah, look for things that confirm, but don't rely on things outside of yourself for truth.
Agreed.
Do either of you know where one can purchase legitimate crystals?
There's illegitimate crystals? I don't know. I never knew that crystals got married.
I think any place you can get crystals is probably a good place to go, but where I generally recommend is going to places like Native American, that are more closely associated with the Native Americans or other spirituality-based outlets. And I'm not talking about the commercial ones. I'm talking about like the more mom-and-pop type places, or going to Ren fairs and going to the powwows and that kind of thing, where you can actually go in person and pick each individual crystal up and find the ones that have a resonance with you specifically.
I second the in-person shopping. You can sometimes feel resonance by looking at a picture online. If there's no picture, don't buy it, right? I go to a mom-and-pop rock shop, and I close my eyes and grab whatever feels right.
I totally agree. I mean, even when I got my my most recent, and still to this day the one that I have, my Pinnacle, I picked up a bunch of different ones out of the cabinet, and they were all cold, and then I picked this one specific up, and it felt very warm to me. And I asked the shopkeep, and she said, that's obviously the one that you're meant to have. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It felt, very true to me, and it's something that I've gone by ever since.
I remember the first time I ran into moldavite. This was back before I understood what starseeds was. Instant connection. I'm like, what's this? I need this. It was very marked.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm sorry, copying questions. Okay. All right, let me open it back up. All right. What is the current territorial status of Earth's moon? Was it occupied by the Draco Reptilian Zeta Gray Illuminati Cabal Alliance? And if so, would that mean that it is habitable, and would it now become a part of Earth in both the material, political, and spiritual, social sense?
The moon continues to be a problematic place. It's not a natural satellite. I know we've gone through this several times, so I'm not going to go much further into that. There's been bases all over the moon, both of good guys and bad guys, neutrals, and, sometimes we'll discover something that we didn't even know about, and neither did anybody else. So it's the situation on the moon is such that I can't really comment at this time.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. It's still not known exactly what will need to be done concerning the moon, we may need to have another satellite, a different one. We do need a satellite in order to maintain tides and tectonic stability.
Environmental stability and rotation of the planet, and
yeah. So we do need a satellite, but it doesn't necessarily have to be old Luna, the reptoid ship.
Mhm.
Anyhow, that decision isn't yet made.
Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, now I got to scroll back up. You girls I'm flabbergasted at the number of questions. We are about to go to page 3. We just completed page 2, and when we started with 14 pages, we now have 22.
Oh goodness.
Okie dokie. The questions are just coming in so fast and furious, it's unreal. Okay, there just aren't enough hours in a day. All right. Please, I would like. Can you tell me what music the ET races listen to, and can you refer us to any of it?
They listen to a lot of their own stuff, which we don't have access to down here, but they do like a lot of Terran stuff, and again, tastes vary by individual. My one brother has a real fondness for hard rock.
Okay.
They
listen to our music. They listen to our music.
Oh yeah, we've been broadcasting it willy-nilly for the last nearly a century. Yeah, they listen to it.
Yeah, my brother, for example, he really likes things like Native American music. He loves, traditional Celtic music. He loves classical music. And I know another one that he spent, quite some time down here on the surface, and I haven't yet found one style of music that he doesn't like. I think he's a bit adverse to anything that has an extreme amount of negative energy in it because, they are very sensitive. But aside from that, he seems to like just about anything I can think of.
And I haven't met an Androni who likes bagpipes. I like bagpipes. Sometimes I'll troll them and listen to something with bagpipes. They go, why?
Maybe something in the frequency or sound of them makes them uncomfortable.
Yeah, Androni are pretty sensitive to sound.
Well, yeah, that's their,
The basis of their technology is sound-based.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we go to 4D, will there be help concerning the mentally handicapped, like retardation?
Yeah, a lot of them won't be classified as that anymore. They'll be healed. They'll be returned to the human optimum, and most of the people who are not classified as mentally disabled will be returned to human optimum too. So everybody will be getting a boost.
Yeah, everything is curable in 4D and above, including death.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Based on your knowledge, have any 3D planets in any universe history ever been able to fight off any 4D or 5D or non-physical negative invasions? Has anyone been able to fight? Okay. Has anyone been able to fight off this higher dimensional negative force without any help, and at the same time being dumped down and manipulated like us right now?
No. This is a first. And that's why we stepped in, because usually when it gets to this bad or, it requires some kind of outside help to set things right. But yes, 3D planets have fought off higher dimensional invasions. It does happen. Usually in those cases, those people already know who they are, what they are. They have access to much greater tech base than we currently do as a public. And are much more coordinated in terms of their activity. Like, they're not fragmented along artificial lines of ethnicity and nation and stuff like, and belief system and religion. That's part of what all of this fragmentation in our own society is about. That is limiting us so that we can't be effective as a group.
Okay.
Divide and conquer, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
As they say, united we stand, divided we fall.
Right. Okay, we have also learned that Tanaath's previous home planet was destroyed by seemingly the same negative soul group. Are most 3D lives eventually destined to suffer before ascension and evolution? And do these negative souls or beings serve as an engine for 3D sentient beings to move forward and to evolve to higher density beings?
In some cases, I think yes. In that particular case, it was, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same for everyone. There's plenty of cases of peaceful transition, although generally what happens is it's, if a whole, it seems to be if a whole planet's transitioning, that there does appear to be some strife involved. That happened in another universe. The rules may have been different there.
Okay. All right. One more question before we go to break. All right. I have learned that 3D planets are supposed to set up to be schools. Are any souls incarnated into any 3D sentient beings supposed to evolve against not only the 3D negatives but also 4 and 5D negatives? And is this even fair based on your perspective?
I don't understand the question.
I don't either.
Do you, Sunfire?
I would say, as far as what's fair and what isn't, is it's relative to the situation. And I mean, Terra and her population right now are not only fighting against 3D negative beings, but also 4 and 5D negative beings, and even higher than that. So, I mean, as far as all 3D planets being set up as schools, I don't think so.
I think in a lot of cases that was a psyop to get that belief that, it's a school, therefore you should just suffer what you're taking because you're learning from it, was a psyop set to get people to not resist correctly, or not resist what was being done to them. We don't take that view. I don't think anybody is entitled to have to suffer this, right?
Yeah, definitely not to this level anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, nobody should have to suffer at through stuff like this.
Yeah. There's only you could say that people chose it only to a point, and definitely we've reached beyond that point.
Well, on with the questions. First one's for you, Drake. Are you refreshed and ready?
Well, it ain't going to get much better than this. Go for it.
Okay. Drake, can you give me your thoughts on what's going on in Brazil right now? People are beginning to revolt and taking to the streets. It's absolutely amazing. I hope people here are finally waking up the same way. Can you confirm this one way or the other? And I just want to be sure there is no hidden agenda behind all of this.
Okay, well, if you're talking about whether I can confirm that the revolutionary stuff's going on, yes, it is. If you want confirmation as to whether it's going on here, it ain't here yet, but we're working on it. So, everybody can be ever hopeful and all that. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Do you agree, Drake, that it's a sign that the people are finally waking up and Brazil's taking the hold of things?
Absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't have what's going on happening if people were not awakening to the prospects that they can do better for themselves and what the government has in mind. Similar processes are going to be found here. So, people need to, get their stuff together, get ready, because it's, it ain't going to go away. It's not necessarily going to be nasty per se, but it ain't going to be as such real nice either. I mean, get ready for some fun and games, okay?
Right. Okay.
Be prepared for attempts to infiltrate, too, right? That kind of thing always gets attention. We saw a great many positive movements that got co-opted by infiltration even in the past 3 or 4 years.
More than that, actually. I would call it fun and games. that have been perpetrated on people who were not aware of all of the things that were happening is pretty tremendous, actually. And
indeed.
as people start picking up on it, then they'll start realizing, oh, wait a minute, he mentioned that a year ago. These people have been saying it's coming. Look at all this mess here and that over there. And they're going to go, okay, well, maybe we should pay more attention to what some people are talking about, how things are supposed to be. Maybe we don't have to go rioting in the streets. Maybe we can just simply go to Washington, D.C. and sit down. Now, everybody might think you want to sit down and strike. Everybody and their mother-in-law who can, go to Washington, D.C. and just sit down. Everywhere. Streets, sidewalks, you name it. There ain't no way they can handle it. You want to get a point across that, we'll do it. I mean, it's not difficult. You outnumber somebody 1,000 to 1. I mean, 10,000 to 1 or some such. What are the oligarchs going to do when all of a sudden everybody says no until their tongue bleeds? That sort of ends it. Okay.
All right. When Earth was originally placed in the current position it is in our solar system, was it an intentional plan that they knew that one day this planet and 3D humans on it would all become 4D?
I believe so.
When it was moved from its last position to this orbit, it was moved by the Alcyons, and it was more of a tug of war. It's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine.
Aha.
That sounds like some kids I used to know.
Really? Okay. Are gray aliens 4D beings, or if so, why do they still abduct Earth humans? And eventually, right now, they have created a new hybrid race. Tolek has said that there are about 5,000 of this new hybrid people already now. What is their true purpose for creating a new hybrid race between grays and humans?
They have a lot of genetic damage that they've caused through their own actions. They've got a deteriorating genetic code. And that is the reason behind the hybridization program. Now, that said, there seems to be an assumption, mostly fed by the channelers, there seems to be an assumption that higher dimensional beings are always better and nicer and good. That's not always the case. We've found people conducting funny business up to very high dimensions indeed. This doesn't necessarily mean that they're a threat to those of us down here, because the higher dimensions tend to take care of themselves for the most part. But don't assume that just because something's from a higher dimension that it's a good person or nice or has your best interests in mind. This is why we have things like the 3 times test. Tolek has spoken a bit about what the plans are for the hybridized people. We don't blame anyone who is a hybrid. We don't hold them responsible. It all depends on what they choose as individuals that will decide what their experiences are going to be.
Right, but as far as the Greys go, they're considered parasitic and invasive by the Federation, and are under extinction protocols right now because of the amount of extreme destruction they've caused.
Right. Okay. But the rest of the question you partially answered then, because they continued. I have learned from Alex Collier's material that Greys are a dying race, and they are intentionally bred out of their ability to reproduce naturally, and they are incapable of emotion and passion. I thought that 4D beings were supposed to be more healthy and better human beings. What is going on here, and can 4D beings still be genetically corrupt as well? You answered the last part.
Yeah, they can. They can corrupt themselves. They can mess their own selves up, and that's what happened in the case of the Greys.
Then you have 40 races like the Procyon who were invaded by the Greys and ended up, in basically the same position we are, not to the extent, but I mean, good and bad exists all the way up into infinity.
Okay.
It's got to be some challenge for living beings, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're very, very weary down on this planet. If we had a paradise with absolutely no challenge, we'd get bored pretty quick. At first, we'd enjoy it because we've been exhausted here. We've been put through things that no sentient living being should ever be put through. But at the very same time, challenge exists and exists to help beings further their own progress, their own soul progress.
Okay. All right, next question. I remember one of you saying that technology distribution will be gradual, which I think is best. Now, for those of you that don't agree, can you give a scenario of what would happen if technology were just thrown out there and the day after the cabal is defeated?
Chaos.
Well, think of what would happen right now if we had an EMP that was worldwide in scope. It would take a long, long time to rebuild from that because the average person does not have the knowledge in order to do that. It's relegated to specialists. If there's a certain thing that only one or two people on the planet know how to do, and those one or two people are killed, then that knowledge is lost and it has to be redeveloped again. And if they were building off a knowledge chain that was also destroyed, it becomes even more time consuming. That work has to be done all over again. The same sort of thing when you're introducing new tech, it has to be introduced gradually at the level so that people can understand, so that the knowledge base builds up, and that way it can't get easily knocked off.
Right. And, part of the reason why we're saying about introducing technology gradually is because the emphasis needs to be put on the necessity for Terrans to develop their own tech and not rely on, higher dimensionals giving them everything.
Yes.
It's that old adage, if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for the rest of his life. If you give a man a fish, you only feed him for one meal.
Yeah. And we, quite frankly, don't want to be babysitting for the rest of our existence or your existence giving fish, right? There's some groups that might like the control that comes with that, but not us. We find it very, very wearisome, and it generally devolves into tyranny at some point, and we're not cool with that. We want to help support the knowledge base, basically giving you guys the ability to develop your own solutions and your own tools and preserve that approach rather than just giving you what we've got and saying, here, go have fun.
And also, it's a matter of, finding the level of technology that is compatible with the spiritual development levels of the planet. And we're talking post-transition because obviously now, is a different thing versus what the Terran population will be post-transition. But at the same time, you still don't give technology from a race that's a billion-plus years advanced of Terra to Terrans. You don't do something like that because there's all this development that gets skipped that is absolutely necessary for the growth of not only the individual but the collective Terran population that needs to come in between.
If you want to have a good idea of what happens if you give the wrong tech level to a group that isn't prepared for it without having any kind of social mitigation in place, well, look at what's going on in sub-Saharan Africa with guns right now and the illegal arms trade and what that's feeding. We don't want to enter into a situation like that on this planet. We've already got enough of those historically and presently.
Okay. All right. Next one is a little bit on the lengthy side, but this is directly to you, Tanaath. Firstly, thank you, Global Voice, or Universal Voice Radio Network, and the host. We listen to you even from India. Thank you, ma'am. Well, you're very welcome. And thank you for writing to me from India. Okay, could you please tell Miss Tanaath the following? Now, before I jump into my question, my name is Achuth, Achuth.
Oh, hi, Achuth.
from India. I have written to Miss Tanaath before. I do not expect her to remember with the number of emails she surely gets, and she should be swamped. I just hope that
I am swamped, but I do remember you, Achooth.
Okay. I just hope that post-operation her sister is healed well, and I hope that the trip to the mountains was fun, too. It's not exactly a question. Oh, thank goodness. Thank you, Tanaath. It is not exactly a question, but I want her to know to this date that I have been practicing very hard astral projection sincerely and many other techniques. A reminder to Miss Tanaath that I had requested for her to try to meet me in my dreams. Miss Tanaath mentioned that I was to go deep asleep when she tried to meet me in my dream, and I would like a little clarification as to what it means if I am too deep. What can I do to climb up? I know that she's very busy, but I humbly request for her to give me another shot. I hope that I didn't write too many emails to the Silver Legion. With love from India. Achoo.
All right. I'm way too busy with operations these days to embark on individual dream walks. So, Achooth, I'm sorry. You're going to have to come after me. I don't think I can come after you. The first thing you're going to want to do is practice lucid dreaming, because that is the first step to any kind of dream walk activity. Once you have lucid dreaming, if you can bridge the next step to the astral plane, you can come looking for me. My Legionnaires will page me if there's somebody asking for me specifically. I may not remember it when I wake up. That's the other thing. So you'll have to call me and email me and let me know what you remember, and I'll see what if it matches what I remember, and that way we can also be sure that you didn't get taken in by somebody faking it, because that also happens.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, no. Okay. And excuse my dogs for coming in with a roar. Okay. Thank all of you for being there and taking our questions. It helps us also very much. The first question is rather a religiosity question. Mornay and Alex Collier have spoke of the book of Revelations being played out as we have been so indoctrinated to believe. Thought equals form it into reality. My question is this still a going concern of the AC/GFOP, Galactic Federation of Planets? Is this why you all have been priming us on using our discernment? I sure don't want this to happen, contact with the baddies before contact with our star families.
It's not required. I would like to ask people to, but it's worth repeating. Stop trying to manifest this stuff. It's not good for you. It's not good for the planet. It's not good for anyone. If people look at all this stuff that's going on in Revelations and they point to prophecies and say this is going on, this is happening. Well, I want to point out a little fact, and that is that the bad guys also have their own version, and in their version they win, and many of the things are the same. We don't want to manifest any of it. Let's skip the whole thing right now, full stop. No.
Okay. Thank you, Tanaath. Also, if anyone knows of the comet Ison, I-S-O-N, if they could say if it will impact Mars in mid-July or fall of this year, and if there's any significance of this comet's proximity or involvement with what is happening here on Terra.
No. It won't impact Mars. And
it will impact Mars? Did you say that was you, Starfire, or Sunfire? I mean, are you with me? We lost them. We lost them.
I'm with you.
Okay, you're still with us. Do you happen to know that question, Drake? I think I heard her say that this comet will impact Mars.
That I'm not sure. I would tell you to see about reconnecting.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to reconnect. I'm waiting to see if they can come back in on Skype here. Hang on. Okay, I did manage to get the girls back. Let me open up the mics. Okay. Fun with Dick and Jane, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, now.
Either somebody didn't want me talking about the Black Bible or it had to do with the comet. Either way, I think we will not comment on the comet until we know more about it. So
I did want to clarify and reiterate that no, it will not impact Mars or have any negative effects on Terra. Try cutting this off again, fan club.
Oh, don't do that.
Okay. Next, let's see. Love the new Wednesday night format. Thank you all so much. With all due respect, I would like to know, if possible, could the ladies post a picture of their ET essences in any way, shape, or form? In some way that would not compromise anyone, but still show us of some of the wonders of our universe.
Well, we don't have photos.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have a camera that's capable of taking higher dimensional photos. I do have a rather cruddy drawing that I did of myself. For that, you can email me.
Yeah, for people that want to see what Chalcedians look like, all they have to do is look up the Vulcans in Star Trek. Just imagine Vulcans with better haircuts.
Better haircuts, more hair colors, more eye colors. You know, they don't all look like my brother, which is what Gene Roddenberry based them off of.
He doesn't have that bad haircut.
No, he doesn't have that bad a haircut, but he does kind of have a no-nonsense approach to life.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. What is consciousness? If everything is inside, how does it project out? Wow.
That's
oh,
easy.
Boy, we're not going for the easy ones, eh? Go for
Sure,
it.
Okay, Drake, you answer.
You want me to stick it in there? It's real simple. Consciousness is self-awareness. Oops, next.
Yeah, and that's for how we can project it out. Well, you become aware of that which is outside of yourself, whether you're there or not. Not
Just
difficult
did.
to do.
You just did it. You're talking, ain't you?
True.
There you go.
Okay. The plane is the plane on which all of these battles are taking place an ethereal one?
Some of them are in spirit realms. Some of them are in different dimensions. Some of them are in between dimensions. Some of it are in other universes. It's kind of a mess. It's all over the place.
Everywhere. It's everywhere.
Not just the ethereal.
Yeah, it's not just the ethereal.
Okay, gotcha. Could this be compared to densities?
Yeah, dimensions can be compared to densities pretty, we use the term interchangeably because some people get caught up on the mathematical dimensions, which is not what we're talking about. You know, you don't suddenly gain another mathematical dimension.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Federation's approach to dimensions and densities is like dimensions are a specific block of frequencies, and each density is a part of the, a layer of that frequency, and in between the dimensions.
And since I know it's coming up, we might as well cover it now. People ask what's the difference between the fourth, fifth, and the sixth dimension. Well, fundamentally, it's just different frequencies and vibrations. We find that dimensions occur in triads, meaning that the first, second, and third, in terms of being able to interact with them, are very similar. The third, or fourth, fifth, and sixth are, again, very similar. Somebody in the fifth can easily interact with the fourth and the sixth. Somebody in the fourth can interact with the sixth and the fifth, et cetera, et cetera. Seventh, eighth, and ninth are a triad. 10th, 11th, and 12th are a triad. Outside of the universe, I think this triad may still hold true. Once you start getting into the very, 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 very high-dimensional universes, then maybe it's no longer triads but other groupings. But in this universe, it's triads.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, within these planes or realms or densities, can things manifest in one realm or density and be brought into another? Are there such artifacts now?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's one of the ways in which the Silver Legion works, actually, is on that principle.
Is there anything on this planet now that would be an artifact of another dimension that we could relate to?
There are a lot of things on this planet that were developed off-world in 3D and in other dimensions. Specifics, there's a number of Vimanas or spacecraft that have been identified, and some of which have been attempts at recovery made. There are other things, stuff like what is referred to as the Ark of the Covenant is a piece of off-world extra-dimensional tech. There's all kinds of stuff.
Okay. I'm experiencing a wonderful sense of no time, which is very different than I have experienced not too long ago. There seem to be no more deadlines, got to do things, and lists of goals to accomplish. Instead, there seems to be a glorious feeling of everything being an opportunity. Do you feel the love, the energy, and the experience? Whether it is a work experience, a personal interaction, or a plan, it is all very beautiful. Will the standard 40-hour work week we are accustomed to be lessened in 4D so that people may enjoy a better balance between work and play?
Yes, it will be. Much of the standard 40-hour work week, or if you're in other countries where it's maybe even more than that, like Japan, that is something that was put into place not for economic necessity, not for any reasonable or legitimate reason other than to keep us distracted and too busy trying to make a living to focus on what's going on around us. So yeah, that kind of thing will not be necessary. I find that most civilians don't experience much boundary between work and play. They have basically all the free time that they want or need, and it's still productive time. In terms of military service, again, we have shifts. Sometimes where it's our turn to be on duty, and sometimes when it's another person's turn to be on duty. But again, it's not seen as toil. It's not seen as work. It's something you do, right? And in a lot of cases, it's a fun, enjoyable thing to do.
Okay. They continued with, I'm constantly on the lookout for opportunity to serve and I take great delight in the energetic interaction. Intuitive senses are extremely heightened, and I am learning to pay attention to the promptings and knowings that I'm getting. I'm thinking that I may be fully immersed in moving from third to fourth. Is that possible?
Sounds like we got a blossoming 4D positive in action here.
There we go. Okay. Question about the Cabal. People that might not be necessarily evil, but are the type that will do anything, no matter how nasty, if they get paid enough money to do it. Will they be also sent to a FEMA camp or somewhere similar, or will they be rehabilitated?
It depends on the individual, right? Like, it depends on the level of complicity. It depends on exactly how willing or, I dare say, even how much enjoyment out of it the person got.
And believe me, the Federation has ways of determining that.
Yeah, as for FEMA camps and stuff like that, they'll be, if they're used at all, they'll be used as a holding facility, not sort of the final place where everything will take place, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I figured all those light portal stories people talk about, where you go through a glowing portal leading into a heaven or are a part of the trap where negative forces are going to get you and convince you that you did evil and have to go back. Is this their purpose?
A lot of it is, yeah. Because well, it's very easy to create an absolute seamless transition that doesn't require any flashy fireworks or special effects, right? If they're using that kind of stuff, it's usually for a reason. If it's for a reason, it's psychological.
The lure.
Yep.
Okay. In a prior show, the discussion was about pets that we have had in the past. I believe that you stated that our cats could be spiritual guides. I am asking about the significance of our pet dogs. My dog that I had to put down because of his health was the very best part of me. And if she would have had a funeral, she would have had numerous people there because of how she touched people's lives, even if only momentarily. And my heart sincerely wants to believe that what you spoke of about reconnecting if our pets are willing, and when she went on, I did check to see if I would ever have her back in another body soon. I was told that I would have a companion, and I do. She is in the form of a cat, and she came to me in a wondrous way, and so I do believe that she is a guide of mine. Is that possible?
It's possible. Cats are often guardians and guides, which is probably why they got unfairly pegged with being familiars, because cats have long been associated with the spirit world. Dogs also, but in a different way.
Okay. Okay. How do you control telepathy, and how do you keep personal and public separate? Are there stages of telepathy?
Yes. I would say it's a matter of practice. Again, find somebody trusted that you can practice with, and then you'll get the hang of it. And somebody who's going to be honest with you and let you know when you're leaking, somebody who's willing to help you learn. You know, that's the kind of person you want to contact for this. And again, the trust relation is absolutely essential. Don't just do this with whoever, right? Don't just pick somebody off the street or off the non-physical street.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you practice discernment and keep yourself safe.
Okay. All right.
And it's kind of like learning how to keep your balance on a bicycle, right? At first you have training wheels. You have somebody there guiding your bike. You have somebody helping out. You learn the feel of it. You learn what it feels like. It can't really be described. It has to be learned by doing.
Okay. All right, next question. I have asked this more than twice, whether Drake and or Tanaath and or Sunfire have met a flesh and blood ET face-to-face. Can I please get this question answered? Thank you. And I think we've answered it 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
But let's hope that this time we get the question answered and the person asking the question hears the answer.
Yeah, I know I have my brother who's flesh and who's a dimensional ET. He came down and visited me a few years ago into a flesh and blood form, and I mean that has been my main experience. And I do have other experiences, but that's the only one I'm comfortable with sharing at this point because I don't want to cause any security concerns.
I suspect I have, without being aware of it, but I have not knowingly met a flesh and blood ET on this planet.
I've seen others around me, not like actually met, interacted with them, but I mean I've seen ETs that I've seen them in Walmart, I've seen them in Target, I've seen them just walking around. There are many different ETs that are just walking around and here on the surface in like practically all over the world.
It's generally considered very, very impolite to blow someone's cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drake?
All right. Drake, do you want to answer if you have seen and or met a flesh and blood ET face to face?
Yeah, and the girls are absolutely right. You go blowing somebody's mind in terms of unexpectedly doing things. It's sort of like trying to look up a lady's skirt. You have to get in trouble for that. The same sort of thing is true of great secrets somebody does not want out to anyone, that they, did some kind of impropriety that they didn't feel was right at all and is extraordinarily painfully embarrassing to them. This is why being mindful of another culture is so critically important. I don't personally want somebody to try to go to war because I tried to shake their hand and insisted on it, or whatever, we would consider normal. Maybe some kind of really obtuse, or whatever. The ET I met was brief. The appearance was similar to what's been described to me, and so I equate it with being truthful. Now, some of them do not appear. Some of them can show up in only dimensional formation or formula or whatever you want to call that mess. Might look like a glob of stars, like the one I was schooled by. The other one appeared, and it was rather shocking because my uncle pulled up in front of the house and my mother was coming out the back door. Mr. E.T. didn't have no place to go, but he sprinted between the houses, and neither my uncle and I followed. My mom didn't see him come out, and neither did my uncle, neither did I. When I come around the corner, he was just simply gone. The great deal that we've got right now with privacy becomes an issue in these things. I have names that go with these entities that I've met that I would rather not stipulate, simply to avoid possibilities of problems, whether it's an embarrassment or whatever. I fully acknowledge, what they did for me, but it's interesting when all of a sudden you're eyeball to eyeball with somebody that absolutely positively ain't from the neighborhood. It does things for both of you usually. But yes, next.
Okay. All right. I know that Drake, Tanaath, and Sunfire all believe that channeling is tainted and or bad. While I do feel that this is true for the most part, I do think that the channeler Bashar has a high level of wisdom, and when I use my discernment, I feel at least 90% of the time or more he is saying useful and wise information. I feel this is even higher. I feel this is even higher than asking a human being for advice or even asking my own heart for advice. My question is,
whoa. Put nothing above your own heart. Nobody can trump your own discernment. That is a real dangerous thing to do.
That's part of what the channelers do, right? Okay. My question is, it makes you think that your own heart is not secure. Okay, my question is, does Drake, Tanaath, or Sunfire have an example of anything that Bashar has said that is not in alignment with service to source?
I don't know. I tend to be unable to listen to Bashar for long periods of time, and I don't have the money to afford his stuff.
I would say, the fact that anybody charges for any kind of information like that is a good place to start. And it has been officially confirmed via the Federation resources. Bashar is not positive.
He's a negative.
Bashar is from an AI source connected to the reptoids. You cannot say this clearly enough and loudly enough. It is an AI source for the reptoids, just like all the other channeling sources.
Okay, and like you said, never ever above your own heart.
Exactly.
That's what they've been trying to get us to do. Don't do it.
Yeah.
There's people got to realize one thing: there are bad guys out there, and they do not have your best interest at heart. Just like we got these bad guys running around saying, I'm all that. Well, really? That's funny. You haven't showed me squat yet. The thing that blows me away most out of everything that I've been involved with is the simplistic acceptance that everybody seems to have for gross horse manure. I mean, you got to smell what's being shoveled. That's the main thing. The first thing you got to realize is that life is realistic. It has reality to it. It don't matter if you're in 3D, 4D, 5D. It don't matter. There is some realistic reality in there. In other words, you can touch the furniture, taste the food, and enjoy yourself, etc. So therefore, if you exist, I think, therefore I am, and all that stuff, and you function in a reality, and somebody comes along and says, hey, how about I unplug your butt and let this other thing waller around inside of you? That's channeling. If you don't feel it's right, what do you do about it? You can feel it in your heart, something ain't quite right. And this usually comes out to parents when their kids are lying to them. They go, yeah, right. I believe everything you tell me right up until you said that. Okay, same thing, discernment, the same heart feeling, the same spiritual halitosis, which is bad breath, is evident in all of the things that are incorrect. You got to look for them sometime. You got to sniff real close. You can challenge them. Okay? Are you of the light? Are you of the light? You do it 3 times, because that goes along with action of a trinary, a perfection. You're invoking the powers of the Creator in terms of all of creation, saying, answer the question, boy. So, there are, and they're going to tell you, or leave, either way. Usually they tell you, and then they just laugh about it. This goes on and on and on. Never allow anything to screw with your freedom of will. That's something given by the Creator to all of us. It's part of the basis for the existence of all of creation, cosmic law. Whatever you want to hang on it is fine. Just remember it. Anything that says, well, you either comply or I'm going to stick a lightning bolt, well, no. I thought you said back here in this other chapter we was all your little kids. There's some contradictory problems in it all. Discern, learn, look at it, read. Next.
Follow your own heart, follow your own conscience, even if it doesn't agree with me, even if it doesn't agree with Drake or somebody else, even if it's something that nobody else has even talked about. Follow your conscience, not somebody else's.
Yeah. Okay.
This is why we put so much emphasis on the need to develop the instincts and the intuition and your inner light and your connection with your inner self and your higher self, because that is where your real truth will come from always, first and foremost.
Okay, I just had to share a funny with y'all. This ought to get a chuckle out of you. One of our listeners made a comment about one of the statements that you made earlier tonight, or I think it was, I don't know if it was Tanaath or Sunfire that said it, but anyway, they said, it's no wonder I never see any ETs because I don't frequent Walmart or Target.
You should sit in the parking lot and get the video.
Only the good ETs frequent Walmart and Target. The bad ETs can afford to shop at iMagnons or whatever, I guess.
They get their groceries at Marcus.
Okay. Oh my goodness gracious.
Shopping seems to be fascinating for them. When I have one of my team here following me around non-physically, they love going to the grocery because it's just such a novelty. The first comment they all come up with is, look at the stuff everywhere.
I remember you telling me about the time that your brother grabbed an entire jug of maple syrup and drink it.
Yeah. It's a good thing that it was non-physical, or we would have got kicked out.
I would have wanted to see him on that sugar high.
Oh, God.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask our audience out there, our listening audience and everything, and the people in the chat room and everything, to please, for a little while, refrain from your questions because I have now 27 pages of questions, and we're on page 4. So we've got more than enough questions for the next couple weeks' shows. And if you listen, you might be able to ask some more, poignant questions. It's just listen carefully, and maybe then we won't get repetitive questions either.
No,
okay.
Are these all 27 pages of unique questions, or 27 pages of rehashing of when is Ascension going to happen and other things that we've answered?
Well, I haven't had a chance to read forward through all of them, because they're just coming from the chat room and the Facebook page and the email, and they're coming from all directions, and so I don't really know, but I'm seeing several of them that are repetitive questions.
Right.
So, okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. As a young man, I've just started growing a beard. Somebody told me that it wouldn't be possible for me to grow a beard when we go to 4D because of the higher vibration. Is that true?
Beards still grow. I've seen people with facial hair. Not everybody has it. Like Chalcedians don't tend to grow facial hair.
Yeah, and I mean there are some people that retain the ability to change their form and their look and their appearance at will, and so
add a beard if you want one day and take it off the next and put it back the next, and okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
There's ways to accommodate that.
Okay. You said that various entities upon which religions have been founded, i.e. Jesus the Christ, or Christ, being a title applied to many miracle workers, as Tanaath pointed out, will help clean up the disinformation mess that has been perpetrated in their name. You said this would include others besides Jesus Christ. I'm interested in the entity that created my path via the Book of Law, or Thelema, Thelema, known as Aiwass, AIWASS. Is this entity included in that list? Are you aware of him, or is he of a different class than Buddha, Jesus, Zoroaster, etc.?
I have heard of Thelema, but I don't know much about it personally, so I don't know.
I'm very familiar with it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that you'll find are not correct. Now, that could be one little thing in a whole bunch of things that rely on that one little bit thing being correct. The Book of Laws, and that's a real book. You can get it eBay or wherever probably. You might want to go through that. It supposedly gives the basis for all of the religiosity laws of every kind for all the religions. And if you look, certain parts of it do, certain parts of it don't, and some of it don't seem right no matter how you slice it. So, you have to be able to go in there and use your discernment, as I stated before. If it don't taste right, you're reading it and it goes, no, that can't be, that don't fit. Then you know what you're doing with. It's like the Source was a book put out about the Jewish or Hebraic law and what it means. Now, some of the things, and I'll give a good example, a lot of your religions will tell you don't eat pork. Ooh, it's unclean, it's unfit, and that ain't it at all. That basically was a simple health suggestion. Pork has a tendency to be deadly if you don't preserve it correctly. And most people did not know how to preserve it correctly. So you spread the rumor that it's unclean, unfit, and people don't eat it and they don't get sick and die. Simplistics. Okay?
Yeah, the people have made very complicated by misperception.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, what about the prime creator of this universe? Is he or she a being from another universe?
Everything technically, technically, we're all found in other universes too. Every single one of us.
Uh-huh.
So yes, our own creator in this universe would be found in other universes too. It's one great big massive what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a big family circle.
Yeah. I want to recommend a book, for people who are really interested in this kind of stuff. It's called The Enlightenment, and I don't remember who the author is, but I know if you go to Unicus Magazine website and you go to articles and you click on The Enlightenment, you can download it as a PDF, and it explains a lot of this stuff and is actually based on real beings and real truth. It's a little outdated, but it's got a lot of very useful information.
Goodness gracious, I don't even know where to start with all these questions. Okay, on another broadcast, you stressed the avoidance of the shedding of blood, even though someone must be killed. Question 1, please explain the importance of not shedding blood. Then question 2, please tell us how the higher density beings feel and think about 3D people having abortions.
Abortions are kind of mystifying for them because non-consensual conception is a rarity. Again, it's one of those things that goes down to the shedding of blood. And this is where we spoke before about if we're going to have hangings of those who have done wrong, make sure to put a plastic sheet under them first. A lot of abortion sheds blood wrongfully, but there are ways to terminate a pregnancy without the shedding of blood. Those have been largely denied people for a good reason. Well, not a good reason, but for a reason. When it comes to things like that, ETs recognize that the needs of the living outweigh the unborn.
Okay.
And the soul does not enter until the first breath is taken. And that's generally what they go by.
And I mean, a lot of it also, especially when it comes to those like the cabal and those involved in rituals and that kind of stuff, there is spiritual and magical implications and reasons of that ilk is why we're cautioning against spilling their blood specifically.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
It's not recommended because it's a pain in the butt to clean up afterwards.
Mm-hmm. And as long as certain members of society, particularly women, are in a position of disparity to which the consequence of an unplanned for child much, much more affects them than it affects the father typically, where it can have serious deleterious effects on their own life, the choice can be understandable.
Okay.
It's just how it's done that is problematic.
Okay. They go on. Please comment on the suffering of a fetus through chemical abortion, and is that acceptable to you and/or higher dimensions?
Okay. First of all, at that point, the soul has not yet entered the body. So the suffering, we're making a huge assumption that there is suffering, which is not necessarily the case.
Okay.
in order for there to be suffering, there has to be consciousness. Suffering without consciousness does not exist. Consciousness requires soul.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, the soul has not yet entered the body.
Right. Yeah. Do you know of anyone who's ever remembered being in the fetus or being a fetus?
I know people who have remembered being in the womb, but those are typically very late trimester. And when it comes to very, very late trimester, at that point, what you have is also partially body memories, which aren't necessarily the same thing as soul memories.
Okay. All right.
Just like I dream when I go to sleep, but I only remember it if I'm in my body when I'm dreaming.
Okay. Will Bigfoot stay with us in 4D, and will you remove Wendigo, Wendigo, Wendigo? These are names I'm not.
Wendigo will probably find it very hard to stick around, because Wendigo is of a very dark vibration. Bigfoot you might see more of.
Okay, they said Wendigo is the one with the red crown because it likes to eat people.
Yeah, Wendigo are malevolent spirits.
Okay, all right. And then they said, Denise, will you share your recurrent dream with us if it is not an invasion of privacy? Because I mentioned that I had a recurrent dream since childhood. And very simply, and it's not an invasion of my privacy, I have no explanation for it, but ever since I was like 5 or 6 years old, I have this dream about a forest fire, and for some reason I'm driving in a car. I'm on this road, and there's fire, raging on both sides of the road, and there are wild animals, including a lot of wolves, rabbits, deer, and bear, and they're coming out of the woods, and they're leaping on top of the car, and basically they get on top of the car, and I keep on driving through the fire, and I never get out actually the other side. As like I'm getting out of the other side of the fire, there's a bright light and the dream ends. So I can't explain it. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means overcoming adversity and fire, like the fire and brimstone and coming out the other side, or what it means. I don't know what it means. I'm hoping I will someday learn what that meant. Okay, question for Drake. What will happen in the upcoming days that leads to people remembering about them being incarnates?
Primarily,
can you say that one again?
Do most of that.
Yeah, can you hear us?
What people are looking for are more definitive answers than the information allows for. Now, that does not mean that you're going to miss it all. That does not mean that you're going to be left out. It does not mean that you're going to be a part and parcel to some kind of fun and games that somebody forgot to mention. What it means is that you are subject only to an extent and only to the things that you're going to find as a reality, applying specifically to not just everything. Everything's changing, but you specifically. So, it goes from there. Next.
Okay. Can you hear us, Tanaath? Tanaath?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you say, is anybody there, and I didn't know if you were having trouble hearing us or... Okay. All right. Question for Tanaath. I'm an alchemist, and I have been for many years. I'm looking for the philosophical stone for enlightenment and not for making gold. I have kind of put this research aside since I have learned about the transition, which does what I'm looking for. My question is whether it is still possible to make the stone in 4 or 5D to help the evolution of the soul.
Now, I'm not an alchemist, but I do believe that alchemy got conflated with an object when we're talking about the Philosopher's Stone and other things like that. The notion that you can somehow achieve it through an object is incorrect. Alchemy is a philosophy, plainly enough, not an object-oriented discipline. So I think that's what I'll say on that one there.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that? Okay.
I think she answered it.
Okay. Can EMP be stopped by our ET relatives, and will it be neutralized if its use is attempted?
Yes. And yes.
Okay. Yes and yes. Okay. Thank you. Question for the three amigos. Is there an organization in the UK working on changing the financial system? Also, is the biosphere that was by the sun coming towards Terra? And if so, is it to begin shipping out those of us who want to stay in 3D?
No, the biosphere is not heading towards Terra. No, it will not intersect Terra and cause all kinds of cataclysmic bad stuff to happen.
That's the star stat, staying by the sun for now.
Yeah.
As for organizations, Drake?
Is there an organization in the UK working on changing the financial system?
Absolutely. I was kind of hoping that question wouldn't come up, but seeing as how it did, yeah. It's not just simply in the UK. They are taking some direction from global or international insiders that work with Neil Keating and I. And some of that information is the reason that the UK is not willing to go along with the European Union's ideas as to what should be done, to include their fun and games they just came up with called a transaction tax. That's the biggest bogus horse hockey that's come along since forever. All it is a designation to steal from you. Everybody should know, if in case you don't, they make about 17% interest on anything you put in there. Now, fractional banking offers them the capability to take $1 in deposit and turn it into up to 100 or however many they have decided upon. So, that's when they say that the banks are failing. Well, that's because they've been cut off and they can't steal anymore, so they have to steal from somebody. It's called the Cypress effect. If you can't get it from the originating bankers, then you steal it from whomever happens to do business with your company, whatever that is, financial or otherwise. And so this is a prelude to the end of the financial system. Now, you got a while before that actually takes place. The things Neil and I have been working on should take place long before we get to anywhere near that point. No matter what's been going on financially lately, supposedly in the news, you have to look for implementation. I have specifically specified that everybody should get away from paper. And by that I mean stocks, bonds, all of it. You don't dump that. Cash might not seem like a good position, but it's a lot better than nothing. And you better watch your stuff in terms of finances because it's getting ready to explode, or implode rather. And when it starts, that's going to be a real mother to deal with. Not only won't you be able to sell anything that you got, but it won't be of any value either. So where does that leave you? Well, if you haven't stashed some cash under the mattress, in a jar in the yard, or however you figure is best to do it, if you don't have food on hand, you're going to be up the creek with no boat, let alone a paddle. And these are things that people need to understand. Right now, there is a flurry of things, of financial activities that I talked about last year that are just now beginning to start taking place. Municipal bonds. They're having a terrible time unloading them. They're taking heavy hits on it. The payout on the interest rate skyrocketed over the last month. Why? Well, that's because when you have a consumerized financial system, you have to have fresh blood in order for the vampires to get their meals. And so consequently, when that fresh blood is not coming in, unemployment, no jobs. They call them anything but a depression. Well, the world's in a financial depression. Anybody realize that? Then fine. Okay, you want to define it according to certain specific parameters. Well, I'll tell you what you can do with your cooked books. And right where you can stuff them in, the sun don't shine there. Dude, here's how it is. Everything's fried. We've got a limited time, and it's coming to fruition the hard way. It's like a zit. If you don't attend to it early on, eventually it gets humongous. And then eventually it goes and gets all over the mirror and is nasty and don't smell right. Well, if this is what you want in your financial future, keep doing what you're doing, which is insane, and expect a different outcome. All right. So that should answer that, I hope.
Okay. All right. I've heard Tanaath and or Tolek talk about this transformation of Earth to 4D as a unique event because people have never, ever before ascended to 4D without having to die first. Here are my two questions. Does the process of ascension usually involve death? And if so, why do we get an exception?
Okay, first of all, I never said that people have never, ever ascended without death. An entire planet has never ascended with the entire population on the ground alive and intact. That is the difference. What was the second part of that question?
If it does usually involve death, why do we get an exception? Why are we the exception to the rule?
It was something that was agreed upon by the planet way back in the day, and by the people who chose to ensoul here or incarnate here. So that's why.
Okay. All right. Next question is on the talk show with Vince. On the talk show with Vince show, you mentioned that a relative of yours married a Silver Legion guy. I was wondering if they had kids or if they're planning on having kids and how that would work. And where will the children be raised, and how will they be educated? And since Mom is a Terran, what rights and responsibilities will the
This was not a Terran Silver Legionnaire or a Terran relative of mine. This was a higher dimensional relative of mine. It was my brother's, it was my niece, one of my dragon nieces. And yes, she and Itachi have had children. As for where they're raising it, I believe they've chose to raise the child on one of the Tausetian planets. And yes, he is a half-dragon.
Okay.
And able to change between human and dragon forms. Itachi himself is human, though he is not Terran. So yeah, it's a half-human, half-dragon baby. And growing up very fast. Half-dragons tend to do that.
Okay. Congratulations. All right. How powerful are spoken words in affecting our realities? My understanding is that thoughts are energy, but spoken words are nothing more than vibrations projected into our environment that can have a direct effect. Can saying a positive thing out loud be helpful, like casting a spell in Harry Potter?
Well, yes, but it's not because of the word. It's because of the intent and the power behind it.
And you have to understand, the reality matrix of Terra is completely messed up. So while things do not manifest so quickly here, they do, generally speaking, everywhere else.
Okay. All right. Sunfire, check your email. Okay. Have any of you ever incarnated as a planet? If so, can you describe the experience? And after the transition, will Gaia forgive us for the destructive ways we have lived on her?
I don't know if Gaia will ever forgive the Cabal, but she'll likely forgive the average human being, who honestly did not do that out of choice. I don't recall ever having been a planet. I've been on the other path instead. Being a planet sounds like a heck of a lot of thankless work.
Okay.
I don't think I'd make too good of a planet because I'd be too tempted to dump boulders on beings like the Cabal way too quickly.
Yep. I like to be mobile. Planets are
I do too.
Not very mobile.
Okay. All right. All right, let's see. For Drake, Tanaath, and Sunfire. Here we go. That's what is the Holy Spirit of the Bible? We basically answered this question just a little while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question went on to say, some say it has emotions and that they communicate with it. Could it just be our connection to our source rather than...
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when they talk about the Holy Spirit, what they're really talking about is a person's connection to source. And that doesn't issue from Jehovah. That issues from source.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right.
And anyone claiming that only some beings have the Holy Spirit is automatically a con artist.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. Question for all three of you again. I love hearing about ET cultures and how they do things compared to how we do things, and y'all's funny stories about your experiences with your ET families. I love the story about chasing Kyla and or his partner. I wasn't really sure who you meant that you were chasing, but would love to hear more on all of these types of topics. I'm also very interested in their perception of us and how we think and how we do things.
I wanted to recommend a book called Contact from Planet Iarga. That gives everybody a really good insight into the what one of the Federation races, their views of Terrans, and it also talks a lot about their culture and their lifestyles and basically everything you could ever hope to want to know about the Iargans. It's again a little outdated, but I think it's probably one of the most accurate sources available at this point as far as books are concerned. As far as experiences, Tanaath, you want to try sharing one? I can't think of any that are actually PG at this point.
Tanaath? Okay, well, let's
Sorry, I was muted. On. There we go. I have an experience that I want to talk about. One of my brothers, the one who likes rock music, not the one who visited Gene Roddenberry, he is a tech. He manages, among other things, the replicator database and scanning things for the replicator. I like to cook. So whenever I cook, he gets somebody to alert him so that he can scan it because he really likes my cooking. I went out one time and I got some very, very, very hot wings. Both of my brothers, my Tausedian brothers, really like spicy food. Sunfire's brother does not like spicy food at all. They pranked him by putting a replicated bowl of super spicy suicide chicken wings in front of Sunfire's brother. Sunfire's brother took one bite, turned red, and then bounced one of the chicken wings right between my other brother's forehead, the one who visited with Gene Roddenberry. My brothers thought this was very, very funny. Sunfire's brother, not so much. When they pranked him again, I made very mild butter chicken. And they put a big bowl of butter chicken in front of Sunfire's brother. And Sunfire's brother would not touch it because he remembered what happened the last time. And finally they convinced him to touch it, and the prank was that it wasn't spicy. It was good. So yeah, they get up to hijinks, they prank each other, they play around, they goof, It's not always PG-13.
I did finally think of one that I thought was really, really funny. Was one of our healers that we work with. He was partially visiting one of our teammates, and he was at the same time visiting on the flagship of one of our allied fleets. And so he was, I guess, doing that whole bilocation thing, and he was kind of horseplaying around with his friend that is the fleet commander of the one allied fleet, and our teammate was eating those sea salt and vinegar chips, and he got the idea that he wanted to try them. He had never had them before, and so he decided to reach his hand in the bag, and he picked one up and he bit into it, and it was extremely salty and high vinegar taste, and he declared that those are the most awful thing he'd ever tasted.
Yeah,
okay.
A lot of us tend to think of aliens as, alien, right? But it's experiences like these that really drove home the point that these are people.
Yeah.
We're not talking about these unfathomable, unknowable things from another reality. They're people. They goof off. They do people things.
Okay. Sunfire, did you receive my email?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure. Okay. All right. Next question is, I read the information provided by Kyla that you had recommended, and I sort of felt left in a lurch because it did not go into exactly how that situation on their planet was ever overcome and how they ultimately freed themselves. Tolek said that they communicated with higher dimensions and came up with technology that freed them and which they are using here to help us to free ourselves as well. But can you provide anything a little more specific information about what they are using and how it might work? I'm also interested in the commonalities of the effects on how thinking and culture changed before and after the occupation and freedom of, Cana,
yeah.
compared to Earth. Cana compared to Earth.
That stuff would be better fielded to Kyla directly. It's not possible right now, but eventually it will be, and he's quite willing to talk at length about it.
I know one thing they did was they switched to a more multi-dimensional way of thinking versus this one-dimensional 3D way of thinking. That made a huge difference in them overcoming the influences of the Greys. As far as the technology, a lot of that is tactical information that we're not at liberty to discuss right now because we're still in the middle of a war. And when you're in the middle of a war, you don't give the other side your playbook. And you don't give the other side the tactical information either.
Okay. All right, question for Tanaath, if you can say. Can you explain what prevents the Silver Legion from getting a ship on the ground here? Is it a dimensional thing, or are you being prevented by other beings or reptoids?
We're being prevented. We're still looking into it. If you, if you know, I'd love to know it.
Okay. All right. I found it interesting when you mentioned that the Star Trek created race of the Cardassians. are sort of a joke because they are a combination of characteristics of both reptilians and Taucetians. Would you please parse that out for us and tell us which characteristics you see as reptilians and which ones you see as Taucetian in that Star Trek race, please? Thanks so much.
Well, the domination conquest thing is reptoid.
Yeah, and also if you look at them, the way that their features are designed were reptoid. There's a lot of different intricacies going into that. One of the things that is that it's kind of like, I guess it's something that's very difficult to describe. The Obsidian Order is based on, but not completely, just lightly based on the Taucetian intelligence arm of the Federation. The Tal Shiar is based on the Procyon intelligence. There's little intricacies. The Cardassians' occupation of Bajor is based on the Reptoids' occupation of Procyon, but in the same sense is also based on the Germans' occupation and the Nazi aspects of World War II. And there's space and I want to say there's space and Terran aspects that go into every different race and storyline that is, expressed in at least the original multiple different series involved in Star Trek. I have no comment in regards to the accuracy of the current reimagination of Star Trek. That's not included in the 95% accuracy.
Okay.
So I hope that helps. It's difficult to, because of security issues. Beyond that, it's very difficult to get into too many, differences and specifics.
Okay. Next question. Are there beings that look like the Namex or I guess it would be Namex, Nameks of Dragon Ball Z?
Probably. If it can be imagined, it exists somewhere.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. Let me see if I can get this next one out. I feel illiterate today. Okay. Are etheric implants BS, and do Andromedans use implants for their contactees and other Terrans they are working with who agree to having them put in? If so, how do these implants help the contactees, and how do they help the Andromedans?
Generally, if somebody's offering you an implant, unless you know absolutely that person is the bona fides of that person, don't take it. The Andromedans, much like the Galactic Federation of Planets, don't typically use implants unless there's no other alternative. Etheric implants do exist. Most of those were placed by Greys and or reptilians or other hostile forces. Again, we've discussed the reason behind implants in people who have been in contact with those beings, and usually it's a matter of tracking or monitoring, sometimes even remote torment. So no, that wouldn't be the Andromedans doing that.
Okay.
The Andromedans can remove etheric implants, but they generally do not place them unless there is a darn good reason.
Okay, yeah.
And then at that point, it's only done with the full knowledge and consent and awareness of the individual.
Yes.
Okay. The rest of the question was, if Andromedans do use implants, are they etheric, physical, or both? And do they use multiple implants in a person or just one?
If you've got an implant and you aren't aware of why it got there or who put it there, it's not the Andromedans. I can say that. It's probably Greys or Reptoids.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. How does one know if they are a starseed, an indigo child, an incarnate, etc.? I've been doing research, and I can't seem to get a straight answer. Everywhere I turn, I keep seeing someone saying that he's a starseed or she's a starseed. Everyone around you is a starseed.
Well, how do you know you're alive? You know, that's one of those things, it's self-knowledge. Nobody can tell you that you're a starseed or that you're an incarnate or whatever. They can say at best, well, it sounds like you might be based on these experiences, but they can't tell you you're an incarnate. The only one who can do that is you. Likewise, if somebody believes that they're an incarnate or a starseed, they're probably right. It's not a kind of thing that is self-aggrandizing. Most people who have that calling are genuinely a starseed or an incarnate or whatnot. If they're trying to capitalize on it, you know, trying to get money out of you or following or whatever, then I would question their motives, but not necessarily that they are or are not a starseed.
Okay. And the final part of the question was, how do you all know yourselves? Have you always known this, or did it take a while to kick in? Kind of a redundant question, I'm sure, but I want to hear what y'all have to say for myself.
Well, how did I know? Well, when I hit 16, somebody said a name to me, and I twitched on the floor for about 5 minutes, having all kinds of weird memories of lifetimes. That did not include this body. It was a pretty shocking incident, hard to deny. Not one of those things I can bring out in a court of law and prove, but it was proof enough for me. When you have an incident like that, well, it becomes pretty darn obvious that something's different. That what they told you in school isn't fully covering it.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I
you
had
found out something
memories.
triggered it when you were about 16. What about you, Sunfire?
I've kind of always known my entire life that I was different and that I just never fit in, never got, never quite, could figure out how to communicate, effectively and stuff. And I think what really triggered it for me was I started learning telepathy from my pony, and then she passed me on telepathically to my brother, and he started talking to me, and he would not exactly tell me anything unless I asked him a question. If I specifically asked a specific question, then he would give me the answer, but it would be in a way that would bring the answer out in myself instead of him specifically just handing it to me. And it kind of it was a series of realizations and memories that got triggered and, that kind of thing. And the more I remembered, the more he worked to answer the questions or help trigger memories where I get the answers myself. And that's pretty much how I found out, or got confirmation of things I'd suspected my entire life.
Okay. Next question. I have been watching the TV show Star Trek Enterprise, and I'm amazed at how every time they stop and explore or meet someone new, they always seem to face their certain death. Is travel in space really this dangerous all the time, or are there lots of fun-loving people and places to visit and enjoy?
That's dramatic license.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun-loving places and people to enjoy. As far as the facing certain death every episode, that's the episodic thing. It's part of the whole Star Trek thing where you build the drama and the story, and that's the format of the TV series. I mean, there are places in space that are extremely dangerous that you wouldn't want to go to without an entire fleet full of gunships and everything else behind you. And there are parts of space where you can go and never and people have lived tens of thousands of years and never seen a war or anything worse than an argument between two intellectuals.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like humans or Terrans. Yeah, it seems like humans or Terrans just thrive on drama. If there's not some kind of intrigue or some certain disaster or fear porn involved, they're disinterested.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
because they've been preconditioned.
They wouldn't watch Star Trek Enterprise if it was they went from one amazing planet with fun-loving people and got to know people on another planet or anything, then people wouldn't follow the show. It's got to be dramatic, and, the world's got to be coming to an end, or they're all going to, certainly die before they'll tune in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. And, I highly recommend people watch DS9. DS9 is interesting. It's been brought up several times in conversations with teammates, friends, even the Dimensionals, how much DS9 parallels things right now and has for quite a while. And at the time when it was written and broadcasted in the mid to late 90s, they were projecting. It was like they had a forward projection, and they were putting it out back then as science fiction. And it's exactly what we're all going through right now.
Okay, please make please, all three of you, please make a comment in regards to the large amount of information dating back into the 70s regarding Billy Meier, M-E-I-E-R, and his contact with the Pleiadians. Does all of this information ring true, and does this information go along with the Galactic Federation of Planets information that we're getting from Tanaath and Tolek?
Sunfire can take this one.
Yeah, I'll take that one. As far as Billy Mayer goes, he was contacted once or twice by some ETs from the Pleiades cluster, which have since been determined to be self-serving, hostile ETs. And since then, as far as I understand it, once he was contacted once or twice, he hasn't been contacted since. And it's interesting that everybody claims to be in contact with Simjaze or Simyazi when she has been dead since the early 1990s and has not been even in this universe since then. And one of the things that I find extremely interesting is that Billy Mayer and his associate claim that Billy Mayer is the only one who has any contact with ETs, and that everybody else is a total fraud. When you think about it, statistically speaking, at least 1 million people annually around the world have contact in one form or another with ETs.
Statistically speaking, it's more likely that Meyer's the fraud.
Yes.
It's like the one person or the woman who's claiming she's the only one who knows how to make organite. Yeah, I'm sorry, no.
The Plejarans are hostile, but they are presented by far too many people as positives. They're not.
No, Pleiadian and Plejaran is a weasel word.
The Plejarans are the Meropians we've been dealing with. I've been trying to round various things into the planet.
Yeah, not exactly a friendly bunch. It's a weasel word. Anybody who calls themselves by a cluster or a galaxy instead of a system is, or even a planet, is trying to pull one over.
Uh-huh.
For instance, the Androni use Androni because Antares has 2 inhabited planets, and Andron and Nicote. The Tausetians, they all are Tausetians and all their inhabited planets in that system, so it is appropriate to call them a Tausetian. But you're going to want more credentials than their galaxy. It'd be like if the reptilians came and said, "Oh, we're Milky Wayans." You could trust them.
Yeah, or all these people that claim just to flat out say Andromedan. Okay, Andromeda is not only a constellation, but it's a galaxy.
Yep.
And we've dealt with positives, negatives, neutrals, and everything in between from the Andromeda galaxy. It's a huge space out there. If they can't come forward and claim either their planet or their star system at least, I would question their motive.
It's like somebody saying, "Trust me, I'm from North America." Well, no, that is not a credential of trust. It's a geographic
location. Every woman has heard "trust me" before.
Okay. All right. this next question is. I have a question concerning the Fae. On the series Lost Girl, how accurate is it to show, how accurate is that show in portraying the Fae, and how do they affect the Terrans or the general population? And are they connected to the Cabal and or our government?
Haven't seen it. Can't tell you. I will say that the Iron Fae series, I can't remember the name of the author. The Iron Fae series is pretty close to a good description of what Fae society used to be like. Fae, you got to understand, they're a lot more high tech now than they used to be, but they like to keep that perception of, boony Fae for Terrans for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. Is the Talmud of Emmanuel found by Billy Mayer a totally or partially true or an entire hoax?
I'm going to guess, given that it's religious trappings, probably a hoax. And again, Billy Mayer's involved. Hoax.
Okay. I understand that benevolent ETs cannot land without having been invited by Terrans. Now, can listeners of Universal Voice Radio invite one or two of the officers of the biospheres to be interviewed live on the air? Greg, will you please handle that?
I would love that if you did so. I don't know if it'll necessarily materialize with a landing. It seems to be that there's more at play here than a simple matter of invitation, because plenty of invitations have been extended. Plenty of people have told me, you guys can land in my backyard, but we're still not able to land. So if we ever do get a chance to get one of them on audio comms, then, maybe we can get them onto the show.
Okay.
It would certainly cut down on a lot of the confusion.
Okay. If you'll just give me the information, I'll get in touch with them. I'll get them on my show. Okay. Can Tanaath and Sunfire take some time sharing one of their unforgettable experiences when they were together on another planet?
Most of my memories of chumming around with Sunfire involve thinking up new pranks.
Yep.
I have a memory of going camping one time with my brothers and Sunfire and Sunfire's brother, and the officer whose name does not translate well in, or whose name does not sound correct in his language in English, sounds like something else in English, Sky, and a few other friends, where we went camping on one of the Tau Cetian planets, and we were in this old growth forest. I remember my brother, the one who is the replicator tech, jumping into a stream straight after a fish. That's how he fishes. No need for a rod or anything there. And we had a campfire, and we didn't even have a tent or anything. We just slept on the ground under the stars, and it was a beautiful thing. That's one of the things I remember.
It's one of my favorite memories too.
Cool.
I think I've got a couple memories from even like various other lives with Tanaath, but everything that I can think of that I can remember has always either been a very positive memory, or at least been laughing so hard I nearly fall out of my chair.
Yep, it's all a bunch of pleasant memories for me too. I don't remember, at least hanging around with Sunfire, I don't remember anything horribly unpleasant. I do remember the fight that got me killed. And when I first remembered it, it was kind of traumatic, but once you get distant from the trauma, it's not so bad, and then it's like, wow, I really did acquit myself well in that battle.
When you take one of those ships that you did up against 13 dreadnoughts by yourself.
Yeah, I got cut off from the rest of the force, and I was in the functional equivalent of a little fighter plane going up against dreadnoughts, and there were 13 of them, and they were very determined to kill me. I managed to take out 5 before they nabbed me. I'm told it was a good a very good, notable flight, but all I remember at the time was realizing I was up Poop Creek without a paddle and deciding, being very determined to do as much as I could on the way out.
Yeah, well, it definitely went down in Federation history, and we definitely upgraded our ship since quite a few times over. I don't think they'll have a chance to pull a trick like that anymore.
Previously, we emailed you, and I hope you received it, a drawing of a crop circle formation that was found in a Russian wheat field on the 17th of June. If you received it, were you able to interpret what this crop formation meant?
That one was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah. Isn't that one of those shut your mouth, you're attracting flies or something?
No, it wasn't shut your mouth, you're attracting. Just a sec. File not available.
Sorry, I'm not available. That was what it said?
No, file not available.
Oh, file not available. Okay. Oh, okay. Very interesting. Okay.
Maybe you have a sense of humor.
Are either of you familiar?
That's what it was. I was mistaken on that crop circle. Mander tells me it says, Mander tells me it's a message to the Cabal to present rear end for a kicking.
I like that.
Okie dokie. Okay, present your rear end for kicking. Okay, great. All right. Another question about channeling. Is it a common definition for that form of possession where an entity takes control of your body so it can speak through you? I mean, it seems to be used like a blanket definition for a lot of different things, like the term Archon.
Yeah, it's misused in a lot of cases, but true channeling is when something, not you, takes over you and uses you as a mouthpiece. Whether you consent or not is what makes it different between channeling or possession. It does not mean that the information is bona fide or anything like that. Channeling is in vogue. It's a bit of a fad in the New Age community, so everybody says they do it, regardless of whether or not that's actually what they're doing. In some cases, it might actually be genuine telepathy. For instance, what Blossom Goodchild does appears to be a case of telepathy. I can't vouch for the bona fides of her contacts, but that doesn't look like channeling to me because it involves a distinct two-way conversation.
And who was that? Who was
Blossom
that?
Goodchild.
Oh, okay.
I cannot speak to the bona fides of her people there, but that isn't channeling what she's doing. It appears to be telepathy.
Okay.
But so a lot of people are using the term channeling because they think it gives credibility. I would say it does quite the opposite. So if you're not channeling, don't use the term.
Hear the word
if you are channeling, for shame.
Yeah. Okay. Can you describe how the Alpha Draconians look in detail, like their skin color, their eyes, their height, etc.? And is Alex Collier correct in saying that they have a very large liver, a mating claw, and hormone sags on the palms of their hands, a long tail and wings for their leaders? How do they communicate?
The leaders do have wings. The grunts do not. Typically, they're 8 to 12 feet tall. They have scaly, pebbly skin. They color code. Generally, you see a number of primary color schemes, each of which have a different role. These are red, green, blue, silver, white, and gray are considered nobility castes. Black is also a caste. Orange is a caste. The yellows you almost never see because they're the nest keepers or the nest tenders. But, they're heavily muscled. They have tails, fairly short, powerful tails that they can use to knock an opponent off their feet. I don't know about the mating claw. I've never gotten close enough to one that wanted to mate, and wouldn't be very interested in it. Besides, they do use pheromones of various varieties.
Do they have a very large liver like that?
Well, man, I'd have to ask our resident dissectionist about that. I guess compared to Terrans, probably yes, because they're used to processing even more toxins than we are. You know, they're filthy creatures.
Do they have long tails?
Long, like, in terms of their entire body length? No, it's more of a short tail. Like, it's not like a long wraparound thing. It is a short tail that is about a third the length of the entire body standing. And it sticks out behind them, and it's used mostly for balance. And they can swing it and knock an enemy over, for instance, that is prepared for it.
Okay. And what about this hormone sags on the palms of their hands?
They do use pheromones. I don't know if it's on the palms of their hands.
Okay. And how do they communicate was the other question.
They have a spoken language. They also use telepathy, and they use technological communications as well.
Okay. Can you describe some or one or more of the most interesting or funny and uncommon looking races of ET?
There's one, I believe, that looks basically like a cross between a squid and a whale, but has more fins. I guess that would be one of the more unique looking ones. I mean, you think about it, infinite diversity, infinite combinations. It's, you know, everything and every possibility is out there.
Are there intelligent beings that have a dog or wolf-like looking head? Ever seen anything like that?
Yeah, we refer to them as canids. Same thing with felines, felids. There's a positive species of felid in, I think it's Sirius B.
Okay.
No, Sirius C.
Sirius A. Yeah.
A, okay, yeah, no, Sirius B is reptoids.
Yes, Sirius B is hostile, Sirius A is not. Sirius A, the felinoids or felids, and then they have a vacation spot. It's really quite unique, but yeah, they're positive.
I would like to compliment our audience on some of these questions. They've really been thinking. You know, they're doing some research, and I want to compliment them on some of the questions. They're excellent. Okay, how will one say hello to a member of the Andromedan Council? Is it true that some don't like to be touched at all? So obviously no handshaking, I would guess. And is it true that some of them think that we stink terribly?
Say hello, and I'd probably skip the perfume that day. Mostly, they don't consider spraying toluene and other industrial waste on your body to be attractive.
And most of them have very sensitive noses and noses and scent glands and that kind of thing. So, what we consider just a little light spritz could be completely overwhelming, for them. Yeah, the
Tausetians really don't do strong perfumes unless they're, even strong perfumes, unless it's natural. If it's natural, they might be able to tolerate it a bit more, but they don't like strong scents of any variety. And most of the chemicals that we spray on ourselves and call perfume, they find about like you would find spraying toxic waste on yourself, which is what you're doing.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. How do members of Galactic Federation of Planets trade? Since they don't use a monetary system, how much and who decides or measures what a certain object or piece of technology, for example, is worth and what is given in return? I mean, there must be some kind of galactic rule for that, and what are they?
No.
Actually, there are no galactic rules. It's a matter of,
what the people involved think is fair exchange.
Yeah, it's a matter of increasing diversity and social connections and development between the various worlds and various planets. And I mean, good example. There's one planet in the Tau Ceti system where peaches and strawberries originate, which is a slight variation of what we know here. And there's another planet that's in a different system that doesn't have the climate to grow the peaches and strawberries, but they have the climate to grow a wine that the Tau Cetians absolutely love and cannot produce in their, in the environment of their planets. And so it's a matter of the Tau Cetians give these guys the peaches and strawberries, and then in return they get cases of this wine that they really enjoy.
Yeah, hot trading commodities. Replicators can't replicate living biological material very well. So fermented foods don't replicate well. Things like cheese, kefir, wine, anything that involves fermentation does not replicate well. There is quite a vigorous trading in anything that is an object of art or cultural good, anything that tastes good and can't be replicated easily, such as wine. Wine is a big one. And things of that nature, cultural goods, art, food, novelties, stuff that doesn't replicate well, that gets traded. And it's all according to the value accorded to it by the people who are doing the trading, which is subjective. There's no need for an oversight body to regulate it, and there is no oversight body regulating it.
Okay. All right. Since you said our ancestors are mostly ET, how can a 4D race come down to Earth and put their genes into an existing 3D race gene pool?
They manifest 3D bodies, and they do it generally the natural way.
Yep.
Okay.
Turn on the disco ball and get in the spinning heart-shaped bed. Here we come.
Yes.
Okay. Can they materialize with their 4D body in a 3D environment, or do they have to scale themselves down to appear with a 3D body apart from fake projection, or can they do both?
Well, yeah, they have to lower their vibrations and increase their density, but they have technology that allows them to manifest bodies as well as the ships that they fly around in. And no, I cannot reveal how that technology works. Sorry.
Okay. Do all entities have their own sociopaths, or does it tend to be certain beings more than others? Also, are some of our public sociopaths from other galaxies?
Well, more like other systems. Not everybody has sociopaths. Sociopathy is pretty rare, if not unheard of, in a lot of positive societies. Some societies do have a small percentage, and how those societies deal with those individuals is up to them. Sociopathy in Terrans comes from the reptoids. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who has reptoid genetics, which is most of us, is a sociopath, or even necessarily that somebody with a high concentration will be sociopathic, but that comes from the reptoids. And it is no, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's no shocking revelation when you think of the nonviolent sociopaths, the Wall Street sociopaths. Well, guess who a lot of them are, and guess where the Cabal's bloodlines came from. Shouldn't be a big leap of thought to put that one together.
Okay. Let's see. Everyone seems to be getting their panties in a wad about these postings concerning Colonel Roy Potter. This is for you, Drake. The problem is that Potter has a very strong relationship with a guy calling himself Conservatus Prime on YouTube. Tolek has said that this man, Conservatus Prime, is a high-ranking Cabal reptilian agent. This alleged agent, Conservatives Prime or whatever, posts many YouTube videos for Colonel Potter, and Potter mentions Conservatives Prime over and over on his site and in his videos. And now, both of these guys claim that Colonel Potter is on the run and that he is seeing UN troops around every corner and over every hill, basically in daily YouTube uploads. I would like y'all to please give us your take on this situation. Is this all fear porn and distraction or not, in your opinions? There is a long thread where we have been talking about this in the Universal Voice, and it includes Tolek's article and all of the YouTube videos entitled Roy Potter that are in trouble. I hope not. What can any of you or Drake or anybody?
Yeah, Drake.
Yeah, well, I want to say I completely agree with Tolek as far as that's concerned. And, I mean, for a guy that's seeing UN troops around every corner, doesn't that just sound like paranoia 101?
Panic.
Yeah,
you got it.
Look around every corner. It's going to get me. It's a boogeyman. Ah.
When in panic, when in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout.
Yeah, apparently when Roy Potter first came out, not so very long ago, he seemed to be highly respected, and he was a well-respected member of the military, and seemed very for real and very matter of fact. And then suddenly he got hooked up with this Conservative Prime guy, and now it's all, like, again, like we talked about the specific episodes of Star Trek and stuff like that. It's got to be like they want to, in order to capture the audience, all of a sudden it's gone off the deep end with, oh my God, doom and gloom, they're coming to take us away. So, that the whole thing has taken a definite turn from what it initially, came out as. Okay. Can you, any of you advise on the legitimacy of Christine Day, Palladian ambassador, through telepathy?
I checked out her website. She's a channeler, and she's not specifying other than that it's Pleiadian. Red flag number 1, she's a channeler. Red flag number 2, she doesn't specify other than Pleiadian. I think that should answer the question.
Okay. All right. What about hypnotists? There was one, Dolores Cannon.
Hypnotism is, again, we consider it information under duress, much like torturing or channeling. It is possible for a hypnotist to implant suggestions. I would not say that there is a lot of validity to hypnotic recovery.
Yeah.
Or
I don't
regression.
Exactly.
I don't think there's a lot of validity for Cannon either, because she claims that all the grays are misunderstood and that they're positives, and that everybody that is abducted or tortured or otherwise manipulated by grays is whether they're aware of it or not, has given them permission, even when 99% of the time that's not the case.
Yeah, and anybody who dismisses, like, we have people on this planet who have had genuine, traumatic, negative encounters with beings like the Greys and the Reptilians. Anybody who is coming and claiming through hypnotism or a channeled source or anything like that these people are not legitimate, that, oh, no, they're really our friends, I'm sorry, you are dismissing the lived experience of thousands, if not millions of people. That is completely dismissive and completely, it's horrifying to me that anybody would do that to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, they would dismiss those experiences and tell people that, oh, no, these beings are really good. They're there with your best interests, when there's people who are being abused and raped and hurt, having genuine experiences.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, next question is, what beings are responsible for crop circles? Or are there several different beings responsible? And are the crop circles?
Yeah, there's several. I mean,
anybody with a ship can make a circle.
Yeah, we've run into the crop circle thing a million times.
Okay, so they are done from a ship rather than from, like, extraterrestrial beings on the ground.
They can be done by a ship, or they can be done via
a drone or a probe.
A drone probe. They
can be done via human beings with boards and rope.
Okay. All right.
Yes, some crop circles are made by human beings with boards and rope. Sorry.
Right.
Not all of them, but some of them.
I guess they were just wondering if maybe it was like resident, aliens walking, the ETs walking.
No, usually it's done via ship or a remote-controlled probe or drone.
Okay. All right. What is the deal with all of the food allergies these days? I have asked naturopaths or whatever about the procedure for identifying food allergies and what they base that information on, such as do they use organic foods or what? These naturopaths and college instructors have told me that it doesn't really matter if the food is organic or not. I don't believe that. What do you know about this?
The food allergies that a lot of people are suffering these days are due to a number of things. The tampering with our food supply directly using genetically engineered and genetically modified materials, stuff that has been forced into hybridization or crossbreeding using hostile chemical but not necessarily genetic methods like what was done with wheat. That's a big one. Yep. Additionally, we also have mass exposure to a lot of chemicals and a lot of things that are disrupting our endocrine system, disrupting our immune system, which makes it more prone to act allergically to things that are not contaminants. So we have multiple assault, one on our food supply, one on our air, our water, our soil, everything. Be very, very careful what products you use. All of these things that they're now discovering are bad for us. A lot of us have been using them for years without realizing that they're bad. Things like parabens and bisphenol A, those are things that are becoming big or have become big over the last few years, and people have become aware of them. But there's many, many artificially derived products that affect us negatively and affect our immune systems negatively. Allergies are when your immune system improperly recognizes something that is not a pathogen as a pathogen and then attacks it improperly and attacks its own tissues improperly. A lot of this can be provoked by substances that are not native to the human body or native to the food chain, which then makes things worse. So we have been under an actual coordinated assault against living things on this planet, not just humans, but all living things on this planet. And it's, again, with the whole depopulation agenda in mind. It's not going to last. It's not going to succeed. All the same, if you find out you're allergic to something, avoid it. And I would say whether or not you're a celiac, whether or not you're gluten intolerant, whether or not you're allergic to it, stay away from the gluten grains, particularly wheat. These things are not good for you in any fashion. Stay away from GMO corn. Stay away from corn syrup in any way. These things do you no good in any way at all.
Yep.
No matter how cleverly advertised they are.
Okay. All right. Bruce Lipton has done some impressive work with DNA and epigenetics. Is it true that we have control over our own DNA? And if so, is it possible to block evil entities who may try to mess with our own DNA?
I would say to an extent everybody does have some control over their own DNA. However, in practice, how feasible this is, I don't know.
Okay.
You can mind over matter it but not everybody's an adept, right?
Okay. All right. Next question is, I saw a craft that transformed out of what appeared to be some sort of gaseous material. It was big and beautiful. It was completely silent and had no lights at all, except for what appeared to be similar to small electric candle lights in each of the windows. It was at very close range, and I felt very peaceful and not at all afraid. Please tell me that this was the good guys. Thank you so much.
Without having seen it or knowing who it was, I can't tell you it's the good guys, but if it did you no harm, then you're probably okay.
Okay.
If it materialized out of a mist, it might have been the Arcturians, and they're generally good guys. But don't go away saying that is exactly who it was, because I don't know.
Right. Okay.
I wasn't there.
Right. Since about 1987, I've been getting a small mark on the bridge of my nose during the night. Any suggestion of what may be going on? January and July, very frequently, it happens. Would like your thoughts.
A mark on the bridge of one's nose, not caused by sleeping position, I take it, I have no idea.
Not. Just a small mark on on the bridge of my nose during the night.
Maybe you grab your nose at night. I don't know.
No.
Take your glasses off. You go to bed.
Okay. Using replicators, do they make foods that are in containers? What becomes of the containers, and does it make both hot and cold foods at the same time?
Yes, they do make hot and cold things on the same plate at the same time. As far as the containers, they make liquids and glasses. They make other foods on plates or bowls. And when you're done with the silverware, the dishes, the cups, all that, you place them back in the replicator, push dereplicate, and it dematerializes and goes poof, gone.
Yep, pretty much. Do the same thing with your clothes. It'll clean your dirty laundry. But I wouldn't put anything handmade and precious there unless you specify that you're just cleaning it and not dereplicating it, because otherwise it goes poof. And yes, for 3D beings with replicators, you can dereplicate waste.
Okay. Let's see. This is a rather lengthy question, but I'm back. All I can say is that fear captured me for a short while. It had to do with the concept of who Lucifer is. I finally realized that my former religion had entered my mind with regard to the evil Lucifer, devil, etc. In addition, the Phoenix journals also identify Lucifer as an evil being. I heard Tanaath explain that Sananda is not our friend, and explained that Ashtar was a mercenary and turncoat. In many of the journals, Sananda traveled with Ashtar in the same vehicle. These journals were written and distributed by subscription during the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. I believe they stopped publishing them in 2006. So this explains why in later journals you do not see any writings from Ashtar. So that fact and what Tanaath stated about Sananda and Ashtar confirmed my suspicions about the journals. I am corresponding with a very interesting man in Australia, and he ordered and just received the handbooks. He wrote me this morning and stated that they are the most profound books he has ever read, and that he resonates with the writings. What can you say anything about that, Tanaath?
Well, he might be an Ashtar incarnate, and that would be why he'd be resonating with it, because generally we don't, those aren't exactly friendly organizations, but they do have incarnates on the ground, which they're using as their mouthpieces to continue their work down here. My experiences with Ashtar have been very, very negative. I've also seen the way that some of their online communities operate, which tend to be quick to beat down any dissenting voices. There's very little room for criticism or critique. Now, this might not be the case in all of them, but I've definitely seen some in which it was. I don't like Ashtar personally. I think he's an opportunist, and I don't think he has anybody's best interests in mind, including his own incarnates, and I think that is a gross betrayal, but that's between him and them. Sananda, again, is another channeled entity. We've already spoken at great lengths about channeled entities. They're unreliable, they're not good sources, and they're never as positive as they give themselves to be.
And the majority of them come from Reptoid AI systems.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Next question, comment. So we go back to factory default with our bodies and are young again. Does that mean that we will never age, or do we spend the last 1,000 or so years of our life looking old? Also, if you had crooked teeth, would you end up with them straight?
I don't know about the teeth. I'm guessing yes, unless there is like a good biological reason for you to have crooked teeth, like to serve some kind of function for you. I don't know. But I think straight teeth probably serve the body in a better function, so it'd probably be closer to straight teeth. Especially since we have evidence to suggest that crooked teeth and dental problems are associated with, well, not only that, but associated with modern agricultural practices beginning about 10,000 years ago, with the introduction of wheat and other grains like that. So, yeah, we all know my opinion on wheat. It's about the same as my opinion on channelers. As for what you will look like, most people I've met appear to be in their mid-20s to early 30s, regardless of whatever actual age they may be. Some of them who get to be elders, like Tankawene of the Andromeda Council, Tanka looks like an old man. He's also very, very old for a Dakotan, so it's appropriate in his case. But I believe it's also an affectation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen. Well, I mean, think about it. The head of the Federation, he's what?
Yeah, Paul is like 20,000 years old and still looks like a 30-year-old.
Yeah, I think he looks closer to 35 to 40, but yeah.
Yeah. It's not a linear translation or linear relationship with how we age now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For Tau Cetians, childhood is generally about 500 years. At the 400 to 500 year mark, they're usually considered to be transitioning to adulthood. But they'll go on looking like they do at 500 until they reach almost 30,000.
Yeah. Okay. Next question was directed at Drake, but any one of you can answer. You said that in 4D you cannot hunt an animal without their permission. Does the same apply to the animal to other animals that can and often do kill humans, such as bears, hippos, alligators, big cats, and so on? And I know things will start when the time comes for the reset, but we are quickly running out of time considering what is to come. We must begin very soon. Thank you all for what you do. Love to all.
Well, if you think about it, when it comes to those like alligators, large cats, bears that attack humans, they're doing it in self-defense, which they have a right to just as well as anybody else.
Or out of hunger, yep. They have that right to self-defense. They have the right to feed themselves.
They have the right to defend their territory.
The same bond between hunter and prey exists between predator and human there. When you start bringing sapient species into the mix, things get a little bit trickier. For instance, we don't give the reptoids permission to kill us, yet they still try. If there is a predator species that wants to hunt us, yeah, they do have to sort of enter into that willingness situation. And occasionally, yes, a sapient does say, okay, yeah, hunt me. It happens.
Okay.
Animal lifetimes are considered forms of service.
Right. Okay. Are you two the only incarnates that have gone public?
No, Tolek's an incarnate. He's gone public. You know, a lot of these people who are starseeds, speaking as starseeds, well, they've gone public, right?
Yeah.
I don't know the whole community out there, who's who and whatnot, but by no means are we the only incarnates out there that are talking.
Excuse you.
And now we know what Drake thinks of it.
Hey, you know, in Russia, the verb is considered polite.
Yes, I know. It's also the same in Japan. However, my coffee decided to object, so, sorry about that.
Don't worry, Drake. You'll still be able to clear a room if you want to in the next dimension.
Okay. When somebody chooses to incarnate here, are they returning to 3D and then they have to work their way back up?
Oh, you don't have to work your way back up. The thing here is it was a soul trap. So, all bets are off, so to speak. But no, if you go down to another dimension, you don't necessarily have to work your way up again. You can have fun in a dimensional life outside of your previous home without being forced to stay there forever and ever and ever, a very long time, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to go redo it all.
Then they commented, they said, thanks, I never dreamt that I'd be able to ask these things. Okay.
I'm glad that people have a chance to ask these questions.
Yeah, I'm thankful that people, the listeners are really taking the time, like you mentioned earlier, Denise, to really listen, pay attention, and really think about their questions before they ask them.
Right.
It really,
and yeah, we do get repeat questions, but we are constantly getting new people joining us, and so and they're not caught up. And so I don't think they're intentionally asking the same questions. It's just, more and more people are waking up, and they're not caught up. That's all, So, all right, the next question is, I have noticed that the sky seems bluer and cleaner. Is this just my imagination, or is this because it's being worked on? I also did a brief meditation to see if I could contact the Silver Legion, and the first thing I saw was what appeared to be a deserted outpost. Then someone signaling me indicated that I was checked out before being allowed to see that someone was there. The same question, imagination or real? That's as far as I went because for some reason this takes a lot of energy to do. But I do intend to go further. I'm pretty sure that my best friend and I both are awakened incarnates.
Well, if it's taking energy, then you really did it. Things that occur entirely in your imagination don't take that kind of effort or energy. Therefore, you really did it.
Okay.
As for, yes, there is stuff being done to try to help the air. It seems to be more effective in some places than others, and of course they keep on trying. They keep on spraying. On a given night, I can usually see a couple in the sky. At one time, I saw 7 at once, and I was wondering, what is this, some kind of bonspiel? Yeah, it does seem to be clearing up in some areas, and there is a great deal of effort made, but until we can ground those planes once and for all, it's going to keep going on.
Okay. Let's see, next question. Let me get to it here. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Drake said that he is not a fan of, here we go,
Bibliotheca Pleiades. Yeah. Any source of information. Yeah. Any source of information should be used with caution. Some of that site's co-opted. Some of that site is very, very good. The stuff on Atlantis, the stuff that is brought through for Kyla, that stuff is pretty accurate. But it's always caveat emptor with any information source, including us, and I know I've said that multiple times. use your discernment.
Because they said that is the website that Tanaath has recommended for truth on some things. Just like my grandkids, I have to ask, why? Why would Tanaath tell us to view a website that is affiliated with a Gnostic Catholic bishop or a cultist?
That'd be Sunfire, but who recommends it more broadly than I do. But for certain subjects, it's fairly accurate. Because even though the website is run by a Kabbalist, it is not all the contributors are Kabbalists. It is a pre-Wikipedia style crowdsource.
Gotcha. You want to comment on that at all, Drake?
I probably can, but I think it was covered.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was covered quite fine.
Okay. Drake, at the end of an article are some comments by people, and Nerchi makes the comment that Stephen Greer has gone into hiding. Maybe you could validate this on your show tonight. Anything you can add to that?
Well, some people hide for varying reasons. Some people don't really have a good reason to hide, but they do it anyway. A lot of the things that you're going to find that are going to be coming out are going to be publicity stunts. Be aware of that, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not exactly huge fans of Stephen Greer over here. We find that he has too many agendas and that his work is not altogether honest. You know,
right.
he may be well-meaning and well-intentioned, but there are agendas there.
All right. Some people must live near the ocean. Some must work outdoors. Others, like myself, must have animals in their life. Especially, I have a strong desire to be with horses. Is this an indication of a connection with a home planet or a particular star family? Also, will we be part of a galactic community? Will some of our star families choose to settle here on Mother Earth with their descendants as a new way of life, calling Earth home for a while, just like people who choose to live aboard for a few years?
Earth is already pretty crowded, so I don't think you'll see a lot of that. You might be seeing people here temporarily, but in general, we will be strongly encouraging people to explore other planets and space, because poor old Mother Earth here needs a little pressure let off, and not just in the subterranean variety. Equines exist in many civilizations and many planets. Horses are considered sacred to many of us, and that also includes their cousins, alicorns, unipegs, and unicorns and pegasi, or unipegs. Alicorns are also called. So if you're called to work with horses, then chances are you've already got a very close relationship with equines. It could be on many planets. You know, I remember one time Tolek told me, he said, I don't know if you're going to believe this or not, but we have unicorns. And I said, oh, yeah, I know. I've met them. Maybe not yours, but I've met enough unipegs to know they're real. You know? Pegasi didn't really do well on Earth because of the density, and unicorns were hunted into extinction for the believed magical properties of their horns.
But as far as I understand it, they will be returning to the planet once it transitions to 40. We'll be seeing a return of a lot of creatures that were relegated to the mythos.
So it's like the propensity to have a strong desire to be with horses. Is that an indication of a connection with a home planet, or would that be, maybe a connection to a particular star family?
I think it's just a connection to horses. I mean, I have a very strong bond with a pony that is, and horses in general. And I mean, she's a unipeg incarnate. So, we share a very strong bond. Tanaath has a unipeg. Another teammate of ours just recently got adopted by a unipeg.
And I believe it was something of a surprise for him, too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
As I reminded him, they welcome you into their world, not the other way around. And I mean, there are what we call equoid species that are equine and human, humanoid with equine aspects. I think it's really just a connection with horses. I don't think it specifically indicates one specific, star family or planet of origin over another.
Right.
Because, like even like Tanaath said that, there's various equine forms and various races and species, various types of equines spread throughout multiple universes.
Okay. All right, we're going to try to get through page 14 of 24 of the questions. Okay, let's see. I was curious if the Silver Legion had some kind of a boot camp. The reason I ask is because I had the most realistic dream that I've ever had in my entire life. In it, I was doing boot camp type exercises and drills. The strangest part was that I could feel I could feel the fatigue and muscle aches from doing hard work. I never felt any pain in a dream before. Was it even a dream? This happened the day that I looked up into the sky and asked to be shown proof.
Well, I don't know if it was us. I believe we do stuff, but I don't usually perceive fatigue as being part of it. Your experience may have been different. We do have training, and we do have group training, and we do have stuff that recruits go through together and do together. So that could have been something like that.
We also have that in the Federation. We've got different training courses, and I guess the closest, we call them education centers, but I guess the closest people would equate with like colleges and that kind of thing, and training centers and stuff. So it could be Silver Legion, could be Federation, it could be anybody.
Mm-hmm. Could it be that this person, because they're right now they're a 3D being, would experience pain and stuff like that, until they ascend to, until they become 4D? Hello?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
I said, would it be possible that the person was experiencing pain because the person is still 3D and has not become a 4D being?
It's possible. I do know that sometimes if I get into a scuff and get injured, I'll wake up with pain.
Yeah. I've woken up with bruises and stuff I didn't have any explanation for.
Yeah, I've woken up with a few bruises and scars and marks and stuff after incidents that I recall getting into fights. It does happen. One of my fellow Silver Legionnaires often ends up in fights and comes to me the next day down here on Terra complaining about the aches and pains and other things, at which point I usually, point out the folly of her approach and say, well, if you didn't do it this way, we like to troll each other. That's what friends are for.
Uh-huh. Okay. I'm going to try and get a couple more questions in here. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes left. Will Native people be able to recover their languages lost to the European forcing of English? If there are few speakers now, will it be possible to offer the full languages in order to pass these languages on to their generations or their kids? Most languages in the world are supposed to be lost by the end of the century by globalization. We're supposed to end up with a monoculture culturally and linguistically. Can this be stopped by how easy Tanaath and Sunfire say it will be to learn a language in 4D? And will diversity in languages rebound like the hope biologic diversity will? English has been so horribly destructive. I hope the ability to learn languages quickly can also reverse the damage and help support those cultures that were damaged in losing their languages.
Yeah, recall all this supposed to be stuff.
Listen up, everybody, my phone's going dead.
Yeah, and the languages, every language that has ever been in existence on this planet is fully preserved. Every, the history of every race, every group of people that have been on this planet has been documented by the Federation. One of the quote-unquote lost ancient languages. Yeah?
Yeah. Drake's phone's about to go dead. Drake, are you still with us?
Okay.
Drake?
Yeah, so far.
Drake?
It ain't going to last but about 5 minutes, so I'll talk to you guys next time around. How's that?
We've got 5 minutes left, Drake. So,
I don't know it'll last very long. I'll see you next time around.
All right. Talk to you later, Drake.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Drake.
I was going to say one of the languages that was considered a lost language here on Terra, Sanskrit, is the business language of multiple different races between the Andromeda Galaxy and the Milky Way. So, I mean, that language is still in existence and is very commonly used.
Yep. And I get a kick out of it whenever anyone writes me namaste or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, unless you're actually from that cultural group, it really doesn't mean much. You're just appropriating. Sorry.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I apologize for interrupting you. I just heard Drake say, excuse me, my phone's about to go dead, so I just wanted to see, before it went dead, I wanted to see if he had something he had to get in. Okay. I think we're going to stop there because we've got about four minutes left, ladies. And I want to thank you for staying an hour of overtime. We've been on for 4 hours now, going on 4 hours. So I want to thank you and hope we see you. And I forwarded the questions to Sunfire, so maybe we can kind of combine questions, and they'll be a little bit more prepared to answer. Not that you haven't been prepared, just maybe we can expedite the question and answer period a little bit.
Yeah, I'll try to organize it a little better and prune the repeated questions.
Okay, I will let you know that we left off on the top of page 15 of questions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, dear. And thank you very much for being with us this evening. Thanks you to all of our audience for your very intelligent questions. And thank you. Please listen to the previous programs and listen back to this one in the archives. And we will do our very, very best to answer all of your questions. And I'm sorry that so many of your questions are going to have to wait till next week. But phenomenal. Great job, everybody, on wonderful questions. So we'll see you next time. Thank you again, Tanaath and Sunfire.
Thank you.
See you next time.
See you next week.
Okay, good night. Forward moving and focused on freedom, this has been the Universal Voice Radio Network special Wednesday presentation with Tanaath and Sunfire with Drake. See you next week, everybody.
See you next week.
Bye. Thanks, Tanaath.